How's it going, everyone? And welcome to a very, very tired episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com. The favorite show hosts are still
Fenurian
and Volasalem, here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week with what is left of the dregs of our soul, considering we've had a rather draining time this week past for various reasons, but we will still do our best as always. If you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in the Discord server and chat to the show hosts and other listeners to the show, and you can get there by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the archive on YouTube.
Yes. On the stream today, we're playing a bit of Final Fantasy XIV, and as you just observed, we were just witnessing, furries in their native habitat. Yeah. Alright, let us see how disappointed I'm going to be in this game today. And this will tie pretty... Oops. Did I not buy it? I thought I bought a ticket. Oh, game says no, apparently. Anyway, I'm disappointed in myself then. On the stream today, we'll just be doing a bit of Final Fantasy because the 6.0 patch dropped and it is full of stuff. Lots of stuff. So much stuff that half of it still isn't even accessible yet.
Yeah. It's a whole bunch of stuff. There's aside from the raids, there's not a whole lot of stuff that's very time demanding aside from the island.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to hop on and just chew through it. It's pretty good. I've done all the story bits of it except for the raid stuff. I'm at the raid unlocked, but I'm waiting for you guys to get it unlocked before I go and do it and see that story, because I want us all to do it if possible so we can talk about the raids.
Yeah, sadly I haven't had a whole lot of time to touch the story stuff yet, so most of my attention has been pointed at Island Sanctuary.
Yeah, have you done the new dungeon yet, since it's like right at the start of the main story?
I have not even done that.
Okay, we'll hold off on that then until you and Vol do it.
Yeah, so once you do the quest in Old Sharlayan to get your island domain, you just go to Morabri Diadocs and you can just go into there from there.
So bookmark Lower Lenoska. That's all you got to do.
Yep. And there, the guy is right there. You just look for the pile of corpses.
Well, you look for the pile of AFK people, because right now, if you AFK too long on your island, it boots you out.
Yeah. On that first day, it wouldn't even let you log in on that on the island.
You could log in. Just it was a coin toss.
Yeah, it was either you'd spawn on the island or you'd spawn at the docks.
And before next producer letter, where Yoshipi's like, yeah, we should have allocated more server capacity to the Island Sanctuary. I didn't know you people were also desperate to play Animal Crossing.
So yeah, essentially that's what the game is. It's just Animal Crossing, kinda. You run around your island, you gather materials, you feed them to the mammoths, and they build buildings.
Mm-hmm. It's, you gather materials, you build stuff, your mammoths build stuff, and, you farm, you can build a pasture that you keep expanding.
Yep.
For your animals, you can build a little garden that keeps expanding.
Yep.
And,
well, I mean, the upfront question I have is, am I stuck with, like, a Facebook game? Is this like Garrisons? Do I have to wait for, like, 3 days to build a thing?
Not initially.
Yes,
you
and
could
no.
probably, if you want to, you can grind your way through it, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I don't want to be forced to wait. I don't mind doing stuff in the background, because I don't want to sit and play Final Fantasy XIV and do nothing else. I've got lots of other things to do in life. But I also don't like when a game is like, here's this new feature, you can do stuff, except you have started building something and come back in 3 hours, and then maybe we'll let you do a little bit more.
All right.
The only thing I've run into that is a hard time gate is there's two things. There's upgrading your buildings takes a certain number of real world hours, and upgrading your pasture and your farming area will take a certain number of real world hours, and their services as well. So you got to let your plants grow, and you got to let
this island ain't small.
Oh
no.
yeah.
Like I was a bit concerned it would be some trivial area, but it is not.
Yeah.
Oh, it is large.
The other thing is the functions of the farm area where the plants and the animals are. Your animals take a while to produce their thing they're going to drop. It's on a timer, and the happier they are, the faster they drop it. and you have to go in there and feed them. You can assign
You're
moments
talking
to
about
it.
poop because it sounds like you're talking about poop.
It's
They-
like fleece, like wool, and
The game
fangs
globally
and
refers to
claws.
them as leavings.
Yeah. So unless they've been eating the wool and the milk and stuff, no. You got to wait until those are ready.
Let's not ask any questions.
But how are you going to fertilize your fields then?
You don't have to fertilize. All you got to do is keep them watered, and if you're on your island when it's raining and you have built your pasture, it will be auto watered for you, and the watering lasts for like 2 days. Otherwise, you just plant your seeds and go get them when they're ready. And you can assign Momets at rank 8 after you fully upgrade the pasture and the farm to take care of that entirely. And so you can cut that out and just go pick up stuff as it's ready. There is a Facebook game that's just a straight Facebook game that just gives you free resources. You spend blue tokens on it, and you send the Momets out to go collect stuff. And every day at 4:00 a.m. Server time, the Momets come back and they give you free stuff.
Yep.
And that and the real world time it takes to build stuff are really the only thing that's time gated. You'll get time gated by the blue currency if you're not careful and don't know ahead of time that you need to save 3,000 of it for rank 7. I got time gated by it because I didn't know that you had to save 3,000 of it, but I'll just tell you ahead of time you need to save 3,000 blue seals.
It's as long as you are just actively doing stuff, you do your challenges, and you don't go frivolously spending those tokens, you'll make it pretty easily.
Yeah, I sent both of my Momets expedition crews out on the full 7-day duration and wasted a ton of blue seals doing that.
Oh, yeah, that'd do it.
And so I did not have 3,000 seals laying around for the point in the upgrade process when I needed them. And the other upgrade points don't cost any seals, so I thought it'd just be like before. Once it's ready to expand, you expand it and pay the materials you need. No. The last upgrade for the pasture and the gardening area require 1,500 blue seals each. So I only had enough for one of them, so I upgraded my plants because I need to make more high-end animal feed, and I don't have enough animal feed to feed 20 or 30 animals. I can barely feed the 10 I've got.
So there is a lot of tedious busy work, especially once you start getting up, but you can automate a good amount of that.
You say it's tedious busy work, but ultimately nothing in here ties into power in any way, does it?
Nope.
No.
You only need to do it if you feel like some tedium.
And you can assign Momets to all the pasture and the gardening thing as soon as you max them out. You do their final upgrade. I finished upgrading the garden, and it's got 30 plots now, or 20 plots now,
Nice.
where you can plant seeds. And you can pay blue scripts to assign Momets to it.
Yeah.
And they'll just take care of it, and you won't have to worry about it. I'm not doing that right now because I'm out of blue scripts, but you can automate it if you choose. And I assume the pasture has the same thing. It has the same option for it, but it says you can't access this feature until you upgrade it.
Yeah, it's the same basic thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and then other than that, your workshop produces stuff that you'll eventually be able to build a workshop that you can queue items in, and you can set up 2 weeks worth of a queue. And it's the thing that produces the blue seals you need to automate Momets and take care of your island and upgrade stuff. And that's on a timer. Every 4 hours or so, your items will be complete, or however you set it up. You schedule it based on real world hours, and the Momets will build stuff in that time frame and take your materials when they get to that time slot. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a way to pre-allocate materials. I really wish there was.
Not as such, but there is a menu that will tell you like what you're going to need coming up.
Yeah. So if you have a building upgrade or need to build a new building that requires like 30 logs or whatever, pull that up and write down how many are pre-allocated and how many you need, and add them together to get the total amount of that material you need. Like, just scribble it in Notepad real quick, because what you'll do is you'll wind up undersupplying your Momets when it comes time to build their stuff in the workshop. So always overgather by at least how much you have queued up, and probably I would recommend having a little bit in the bank in case you screw your math up and you're really tired, which I did.
Yeah, worst case is you make sure you the deficits here in this menu here. I don't have anything in production, so it's blank. But make sure the deficits are 0 before you log out. That's all you need to do.
And once you get to a certain point, you can visit your friends' islands. Let me go to Lower Lenoska, and I will go to Fern's Island.
You can actually, yes.
You can't do anything, but you can see all the animals and pets they have on it.
Yep. I have fulfilled the requirement by law. The Poogie has taken pride of place in the center.
This is an extremely mercenary mammoth.
Oh, isn't
Yeah,
he? I love him. Like, this mammoth gives zero cares.
Yeah, he does not give a crap. So Fern, we can actually, if we're on your island, since you have you're one rank behind me, I think I'm rank 7. You said you're rank 6.
I'm rank 6, yeah. I need to get a second granary building, actually, so I'll go do that.
So you have your workshops up front. Fern has here, and then you have his cozy cabin, which is just your hub thing where you spend your curios. You don't do anything with it. Although you'll want to upgrade it because every building you upgraded is like 2,500 EXP. That's the same as gathering 250 items.
That said, your vendors are in here, and I know I'm not going to be able to put this... Well, I could put it through the stream, but I'm not going to. I just need to... There we go.
So I'll just invite you to party. So
I have no idea if Ari's actually going to hear what I'm playing on the Orchestron. Let's see if he does.
I have my sound off, so I can turn it on though.
I'm disappointed. Alright. So
right now it's just I don't hear anything other than island music.
Yeah, okay. So I guess it's per player.
So yeah, this is a facility log board. You need to build your second granary. Is that what it is?
That's what's going here.
So yeah, Fern will show you how that interface works, and we can walk over to the pastures and the gardening area and show the audience what that's about.
All right. I'm actually missing a bunch of materials because I've been kind of lax and letting things run for the last couple of days. So I need to go get palm logs, and clay. I've got copper and vines.
Before you go run off and do that, let's go run to your pastures and your gardening area up here and show them what I was talking about.
Yeah, I was just up there actually.
Yeah, so you'll see he has sheep.
Sheep.
I can't do it. I can't interact with anything on another person's island. Friends can't do that. I can't gather crap. I can't do anything. I just am here as a phantom guest.
Yeah.
And
your ghost.
Yeah, you'll come in here in gather mode, and you'll click on your animals, and you'll collect their stuff, and you'll feed
File
them
inventory, like... really?
Yeah, the puns continue.
What is with MMO creators and puns? They all seem to be absolutely pathologically addicted to puns.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, TBH. And the gardening thing up there is the exact same. And you can talk to the mammoths out front to immediately see what the deal is with your pasture and your garden.
Yeah, I don't need to do that because I've just done all that. All right.
Yeah.
And then now, once you come out through this tunnel, you're into the gathering area, which is large.
I've just got sent to do my first gathering thing, but I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Alright, so if I go into Manage Hideaway, I can go Vacant Plots, Review, Granary, and then you can remotely view what you need. So logs, palm logs, and clay. And essentially you just run around and click on stuff.
Yeah, you go through the little narrow tunnel going from the main hub area to the bigger island, and then you get on your little mount and you run around. Yeah, off you go.
I haven't set up the macros to do it, so I'm just doing it manually.
And you just turn on gather mode and collect stuff. You can capture animals too eventually. Vol won't have that unlocked until I think a rank up. But just do this, and whenever the moments have an exclamation point, go see what it is and see what you need to build, and go gather the crap they need.
Yep. It's all very simple, very relaxing. The rewards from it, there's 3 admittedly rather ugly mounts.
Yeah, there's a pretty ugly glamour set, but a lot of people on Eorzea Collection like it because it's splashable. And they can find uses for individual pieces.
I mean, it's got shorts in it. People are going to go nuts for those.
Oh, yeah. But, those people are also crazy. So,
oh, yeah, I mean, yes.
If you like glamour enough to go ham on Eorzea Collection, you're crazy.
I usually look at Eorzea Collection for ideas, and that's about where it ends.
Yeah, I'll look at it to see what kind of pants people are picking usually, because I'm terrible with pants in this game.
Yep.
And I've just decided on no pants for a bunch of armor that has long enough to count as a pseudo skirt.
Yeah. Admittedly, they do have some tools that are very handy in finding the appearance you're looking for and where to get it.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's about it for the island. You just run around, collect stuff, and
Yeah.
build stuff as exclamation points pop up. You can capture animals. There's a few other minor things you can do around the island. There's rare animals you can hunt that only show up with certain weather conditions at certain times. Those are also bugged right now, where some of their times don't sync up with the weather change, so the spawn condition is never met. So you have to stand outside of your island and go in after the windows line up. Otherwise, the trigger won't happen, and you can't have any friends on your island when you do.
That's irritating. Like, I found the black chocobo and I found a black sheep, but those are the only rares I managed to see so far.
I found 2 black sheep because they popped up at 2 different times, and not a black stag, a regular stag of the things that are mostly does up there.
Oh, yeah, because these things.
The gazelle-looking things.
Yeah, they're dog, horse, gazelle things? I don't know.
Dog,
Yeah.
horse, gazelles.
They're weird looking things. So yeah,
And that's the island.
it's pretty chill. You don't need to do too much. You can just run around, gather, and just let everything happen.
And I'll post these in the live show chat because they've been very handy for me at the office and let me gather while I'm reading something else or waiting on a phone call or something without having to actually look at the game. And this is totally all macro in-game. You don't need any add-ons, so this is perfectly fine.
You actually already noticed me doing it, by the way. My blind has just wandered. I know I came out here looking for specific stuff, but I'm just wandering and gathering already.
Yep. So it's real easy to lose yourself. It's also real easy to lose track of time. Just running around and gathering stuff. Even though you can't do that much with the stuff, just going, oh, that material's a little hard to get. I'll just go over here and get a few of this. Oh, so is that one. I'm gonna get a few of this, and eventually things just get out of hand.
Yeah, incidentally, actually, I've got a new tool to make, so I'm just going to make the scythe. Totally not edgelordy.
So I pasted both of the macros in live show chat. The first one will just turn on the island sprint. Don't use normal sprint. Use the duty action island sprint. Same thing with return. Don't use normal return. Use the island return. They cast faster, and they don't have a cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do them as much as you want. And it bugs me to death that the very first thing you need to do whenever you land on your island after you've got everything started is press the return button.
Really? I didn't have that problem.
No, you will. Like, if you load into your island, you'll load up on the beach.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so the very first thing you need to do is press the return button to go to the hub.
Yeah, okay, gotcha now.
And then what you can do is pick the class you like to hang out on your island with. I like Ninja because it's Sakuchi. It lets me teleport all over the place. You can just set up if you're using controller, a third action bar on the class you want and just set your island crap on it.
Yeah. I'm just doing everything on Machinist because that's the class I was set to. It does not matter one little bit what class you go in.
Yeah, there's no combat on the islands, and there is just pick the class that lets you move around the best that you have available.
Alternately, the class that will look the best.
Yeah, or the one you want to stare at the glamour for. Although, you are on an island getaway, it seems like a waste not to have a swimsuit on.
Yeah. At least on the beaches.
There's an awful lot of whinging that takes place in the summer event for FGO that just finished this year's one about people donning a swimsuit because it's summer and then ending up having to spend half the time getting eaten alive in the forest by insects.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the island getaway would go much the same way because a good chunk of there's the beaches and probably the estate is, fairly swimsuit friendly, but the interior of the island is not.
Well, there's a wooded area at the very start of it, but after you get through there, the island's pretty open after the initial batch of trees that you walk out into in the gathering area.
Yeah, as long as you don't count the mountain.
Well, that's a mountain. You don't have to worry about bugs on a mountain with no plants or anything.
Says you.
If you've ever gone up, like, I don't know what it's like in other mountain ranges, but in the Appalachian Mountains, once you cross the threshold where trees don't grow anymore, there are no bugs.
Yeah, that's fair. In Australia, we don't have mountains that high.
Like, I've been to the Appalachia chain a ton, because it's, like, right next door.
Yeah.
if you go north one county, you're in it. You're at the base, and you start climbing. And you used to have my grandparents used to have a home up in Sky Valley. And as soon as you passed the tree line, no more bugs.
So yeah, that's the island. It's chill. It doesn't have the kind of the same feeling that the WoW Garrison did in the day. Like WoW
No,
Garrison, it
it's
felt like an obligation.
none of this will impact the main game. This is
No.
a totally separate progression
The
system.
WoW Garrison was psychological abuse. It wasn't a
It
feature.
was bad. I think the most that you can really accomplish from this, aside from cosmetics, is there's a couple of crafting materials I think you can get, but you can get them anywhere.
Yeah, that's just another way to dump your scripts after you've maxed out everything on the island.
Basically, yeah.
But you won't need that unless you're pentamelding crafting materia for every single crafting job. And if you're doing that, you're already rolling in Gil and can just buy it.
Yeah, so it's no big deal.
And then the only thing the WoW Garrison has over this is you could stable the motorcycle and watch it eat hay in the WoW Garrison.
Yeah. I do have yokai tending my fields. That's
But
the
yeah,
thing.
and when you get to the island initially and start gathering stuff, you'll only be able to get one material per node, but each node has another material that it's actually made of. So your speckled rocks, your dirt, your submerged sand, and every type of tree has an actual thing that it's part of. And once you rank up, you check your crafting log, and you can go to your tools, and you can see if you unlocked a new tool. And once you unlock the tool appropriate for that thing, like the hatchet for the trees, or the shovel for the dirt, or the scythe for the plants, or the gig for the fish, or the hammer for the other rocks,
Yeah.
you'll eventually be able to gather that thing's actual material. So if you get to the island, you're like, why is everything giving me sand, stone, and log, and there is nothing else to gather? It's because there's another material you'll unlock from that node eventually.
Yeah.
And where the gathering log tells you to go to gather items, for about half of them, it is not the best spot to gather it.
Generally, no. So you notice now, actually, with these kind of aloe-looking things, before I built the site, I was only getting Islewort. Now I'm getting hemp from them as well.
Yeah, read the description of hemp.
Oh, no.
It's just them being dumb.
When isn't the description of them being dumb? The stalk of this sun-kissed plant contains fibers used for weaving, and only weaving, in case anyone asks. Yeah. Okay.
Well, can you make hemp out of stuff other than marijuana? I would assume you can.
No, hemp is a related plant in the same
Okay.
family.
Yeah.
If you want to try and get the same sort of high off of smoking hemp that you would off of smoking marijuana, you'd have to smoke so much that you'd get horribly, horribly sick.
You get horribly
Like,
dead, probably, before you get a high.
We're talking like 200 times as much. sort of
Yeah.
thing. There's not a lot of people have the impression that they're similar because they're both hemp family plants, because the hemp is sort of like a broader umbrella term. But yeah, you don't want to try getting anything out of that. That's not good for you.
Not the same.
Yeah.
However, people do weave out of it, and then they eat it, and they do all kinds of weird crap with hemp.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
things that people have just decided is generically good for all purposes.
Yeah. There's speaking of stuff that's generically good for all purposes, on the island, stuff you will need in excess. You will need regular logs, you will need palm logs, you will need copper ore when you can get it. You will need clay, you will need hemp, and you will need vines and branches.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is pretty limited in its uses, but those things in particular you will need a ton of.
Alright, so that's really all there is to say about the island. I'm just going to keep chipping away at this. I'll queue up some stuff for the next few days and then go and farm up what I need for those. And then I'm going to go...
If I need a ton of this stuff, am I ever going to be able to gather it at more than one at a time?
No, you'll only ever be able to gather one at a time, but you'll learn. That's why I told you the macro is helpful. Because you just go to a spot that has a ton of it right next to each other and match the one that isn't the mount.
Yeah, or you could just go... Once you can build your granaries, you can assign your mammoths to do it and log off.
Yeah, the mammoths. They don't gather very much of it though. If you need a truly absurd amount, like more than 15
Yeah,
for whatever you're doing, and you got that much of a deficit, just
And find a podcast to get caught up on.
pretty much.
Yeah, go listen to something, because it would be a little underwhelming if it was literally just a Facebook game. So you do have to go out and actually gather crap and manage the island.
Yeah. As for the rest of my week, not a whole lot, unfortunately. I have actually started watching Devil as a Part-Timer, and
I love it.
that show, it's something.
The second season has a different vibe to the first one because they're actually trying to tell a story that has a through line the whole way through, but it's adorable.
Okay. Yeah, the first season is like, stuff just keeps happening.
Yeah, they have little 2-episode arcs that always have a punchline at the end.
Yeah.
And you see what I mean by it being a different type of comedy, though?
Yeah. Like, I like Mao, he's a fun little character. He's kind of a doofus when he's not being, Satan.
He's a colossal dork.
He's an enormous dork. And, the hero, Amelia, is just a complete neurotic nutcase.
Oh, she's a tsundere with the neuroses turned way, way, way up.
Way up.
She gets a little better, but she's still I'm totally not in love with him, Baka.
Yeah, she's totally into him.
So she's of the classic type. Wound up.
Wound all the way up.
Yeah, tighten the coils a bit on the classic tsundere and you get Amelia.
She's a bit of a psycho.
Well, I mean, he is the devil.
He is the devil, it's fair, and,
he did go burn down villages all over her country.
He did burn down her parents as well.
Well, like, they don't ever let him forget that he did, they don't mention it where it's going to kill the comedy. But when they're actually going into the backstory and stuff, they don't let him forget that, what he did was terrible.
Yeah.
Well, he's working customer service and fast food now. Surely that's punishment enough.
That's pretty punishing. Even if it is in Japan, where everyone's mostly polite.
Yeah, the second season is almost more adorable than it is funny because the whole joke is around a baby.
Oh no. It's not Beelzebub all over again, is it?
No, it's this little perfect little angel baby that shows up and starts calling Mao and Amelia mommy and daddy out of nowhere.
Ugh. Incidentally, that's actually another good series to watch is Beelzebub. It's just stupid. Yeah. Alright. So yeah, just chipping away at that. I've gotten up to the point where here's the first major plot arc with Lucifer turning up and being edgy.
Oh, those only last 2 episodes because they're meant to set up a minor story and mostly tell a joke.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're not going to be. They'll make Lucifer a recurring character afterwards, and it will be funny.
Is he going to remain as an edgelord?
No, he's going to turn into a millennial NEET.
Ugh. I think I prefer the edgelord.
He's basically going to be the lens to see what everybody knows one of these guys or knows of them. The type of person who lives off of Amazon orders and just mooches off of somebody else for shelter and food.
Yeah.
Freeloader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Professional mooch.
Now give that guy Mao's credit card.
But there's nothing on Mao's credit card.
Yes. And you will see the problem.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a fun little series, and I'm only going to about halfway through season 1. That's fine.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, there's not a whole lot of new anime to really watch. Though there's a couple of hype things on the horizon, like everyone's getting nuts for Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, it did really well as a manga, but I don't know. I don't trust things anymore, I've been disappointed too many times.
Yeah.
I haven't read the manga. Everybody recommends it, but I don't really have time to just sit down and binge read a manga these days. But it's usually hard to go too far wrong with classic shonen, which is essentially what it boils down to.
It's essentially what it is. Also, I've watched a little bit of G Gundam too because I needed more insanity in my life.
Have you finally got through the first 12 episodes where they're trying to figure out what they're doing?
I'm about halfway through that, where they're trying to pretend like there's some sort of through-line plot.
They give up.
Yeah.
After the first 12 episodes. But you do have to chew through those first 12 episodes where they're figuring it out, because a lot of backstory is set up in those.
Yeah, it's like, here's the
But
world
once you-
building. Okay, you got that? Good. Now here's Kangaroo Gundam.
Yep. Just people want windmill Gundams so bad for Norway or whatever it was.
They got him.
Well, there's like one model kit that ever existed, and it's long out of print.
I wonder if that was actually be worth anything.
Probably because it's completely out of print and it's a
Let's
stupidly
see.
popular Gundam.
Nah, I'm going
People
to.
pay a huge amount for Gundams that aren't out of print.
Oh, yeah, let's see. Nether Gundam is what it's actually called, by the way.
The Netherlands Gundam.
The Nether Gundam. Yeah, here we go. Here's that's an action figure. It's not the actual kit, but it's $175.
Yeah, for just the action figure. Now, imagine what the actual official model costs.
Yeah.
It's going to be insane.
Let's see. Might have to go elsewhere. Let's see.
It's going to be hard to find. Most people aren't going to list it because it was a short print run as well.
Yeah.
It's infamous. It's infamous because it's so short print and rare. And also, everybody in the Netherlands wants one.
Yeah. Here's a thread from 2015 on Reddit. Somebody saying they're looking for one, and everyone's basically saying, "Okay, here's a pattern. Make it yourself."
Yeah, it's impossible to find the official one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 3D printers go.
3D printer or learn to balsa wood. Incidentally, there's a new Gundam game coming out, which is what was it? The Chibi Gundams, but they've got G Gundam in there as well.
Oh yes, so
The game looks insane. Let's face it.
So we can erupting burning finger all over our opponents.
Yep,
That's alarming.
it is. Yeah, like the Chibi Gundam, what was it? GD or GX, whatever it is, Gundam. Yeah. Like, there's a serious set of Gundam series, and then there's the let's just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks set of series.
The entirety of the first 12 episodes of G Gundam is just them going, alright, we'll just see what works. Because they didn't know who was going to be a recurring character at that point.
Mm-hmm.
They just had no idea. So all the characters you see introduced are potential characters they could have gone with.
Yeah.
Until they decided on China, Russia, and America.
The American guy is kind of fun, I admit.
I love Chibity Crockett.
He's such a doof.
The fact that in his introductory episode he gets mad at the FBI for interfering with a Gundam match and blows up their planes makes me appreciate him a lot
He
more.
does. You just get out of here, FBI. It's great. So that
Good
kind of
old-
sets the tone for what G Gundam is. What else? The only other thing I've been chipping away at is Digimon Survive. I am in the last chapter of the stories have diverged now, of the Harmony ending. So what happens is at the end of chapter 8 is you will get your choice of 3 paths, which is your Harmony, your Moral, or your Wrath ending.
They really are cribbing from the SMT playbook, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I have no idea where the story goes, but I am going to reach the end of this story being borne aloft by a pile of dead kids, it seems like. Yeah. So once you hit New Game Plus and you reach that point after meeting a certain set of criteria, you can opt for the 4th option, which is the true path.
Yep, one of them.
Yep, but it is impossible to meet those criteria because in the first playthrough, because it just ignores it. Like, I know I could have saved a couple of those kids, but yeah, them dead, so you can't get the true path. You've got to watch them die first. But yeah, beyond that, still no reason as to why it's a Digimon game.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta get that brand recognition.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Piedmon goes flapping around for a bit, then he dies. I think he's dead. It's Piedmon. Who even knows with that guy? But-
He had kind of a... Is he the clown one from the Dark Masters?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he kind of had no character and was just there to be a final boss.
Yeah.
tacked on last season of the first Digimon series.
Yeah. The inevitable moment of Garurumon flipping sides happened, and then he goes off to be edgy somewhere. Although it seems like in the Harmony ending, and this is going to be a bit of a spoiler, is Renamon seems like she's going to be a villain.
Renamon's always, if she's actually being in character as Renamon, she's always standoffish and willing to stab people in the back at first.
Yeah.
She usually gets better, but in this route, it sounds like she didn't get better.
No, she doesn't seem to be getting better. Her master is getting worse.
Well, her master was Rika in Tamers, and that was pretty bad for her.
She had issues.
Her master is a vegetable for most of the story till this point, so there's that.
Not exactly ideal for giving moral guidance.
No.
Are the Digimon actually characters that you interact with, or are they just one trait like in Season 1? Like, are we talking Tamers Digimon, or Digimon actually grow and learn? Or are we talking Season 1 Digimon where they are just a character trait attached to an animal that accompanies the people with actual character?
A bit of both. Like, Agumon's fairly one note, but Agumon always is. He's kind of just this doofus who trails around, but he's super caring.
He's dumb and hungry.
He's dumb and hungry. But he does have a caring spot. Falcomon goes through a little bit of a story arc, because he's incredibly stuck up. His master is kind of a flighty doofus. So they go through a bit of an arc where they argue and then they make up and both grow out of it. Labramon is a sycophant. Dracmon is just kind of a jerk and doesn't do anything. And yeah, there's a few others that should have had story arcs, but they died.
Maybe they have arcs in the other routes.
Yeah, the big one of those would be Lopmon.
Yeah, Lopmon always, whenever she's in a game, she seems to get roped into the situation and had no real interest in it initially, and has to just kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
And she always gets stuck with the Terriermon.
Yeah, no Terriermon this time around. But Lopmon is there, and Lopmon kind of gets the rough end of the stick, or is one of the characters who gets the rough end of the stick.
Or Tamer's Lopmon got Susie as its tamer.
Yeah. That didn't end well.
Well, it ended fine. It just, you had to deal with Susie playing with her like she was a toy and tugging on her ears because Susie's like 3.
Yeah. Didn't it take Leomon dying to kick that into motion?
Well, she didn't join the Tamers until right before Leomon died.
Yeah.
Because she was originally a Deva in Tamers.
Yeah. So yeah, some of the Digimon will have a bit of a story arc, and others just don't. And yeah, again, because characters have been dying, other Digimon don't even get any time in the spotlight at all. Especially the one of the kid who dies first. It's like it's there, it's trying its best, but then no, it's dead.
You're dead, Jim.
That's the way that it. At least that's one of the holdovers from the main Digimon line. Is if the Digidestin dies, the Digimon dies as well. At least eventually, in some cases, but yeah, they do die. Or go nuts.
Without a tamer, they can't exist in the real world, and if they die too early, then and they're in the digital world, the Digimon will lose its humanity that it's gained from interacting with people. And it's mostly a natural process because they're essentially wild animals if they're left to their own devices in most Digimon universes. And it's only interacting and being around humans that humanizes them.
Yep. In this case, no, they just straight up die.
Yeah, that's them's just straight up dying because of their tamer dying is a thing unique to this universe.
Yeah. And normally when a Digimon dies, they get thrown back to an egg and then start a new life. Not in this case. They just die.
Well, you're not in the digital world for this game, are you?
Probably not. Unclear.
Yeah, because they can only do that if they die in the digital world. Any Digimon that dies in reality in all universes is dead for good.
Yeah.
That's why Wizardmon dying is a big deal. Well, Leomon dies in the digital world all the time, so he can come back in an adventure.
Yeah.
He's probably got one of those points cards at this point.
In Adventure, though, he dies in the real world, so...
No, he doesn't. He dies in the digital world, and he dies again in the digital world as Saber Leomon.
Oh, I thought he did. It was the real world he died to see what
No,
Leomon.
Wizardmon was the sacrifice in Adventure for the permadead ones.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and then in Tamers, the reason Leomon stays dead is because Beelzemon absorbs his data after he dies.
He gets nommed, yes.
That's why Beelzemon could do Fist of the Beast King and inflict more PTSD on Jerry while he's trying to save her.
Yeah. Tamers gets dark.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll break through and save you, Jerry. I'll use your Digimon special ability. Jerry sees it and just has a complete blue screen of death. Oh, right, you murdered my partner.
Yeah, you just ate my partner, so yeah.
Man, what do the script writers have against Jerry anyway?
I mean, you needed a vessel to be that character, I guess, for that arc, but...
And poor Jerry drew the short straw.
Yeah, so you pick the autistic girl that has to talk through a puppet for half of her speech.
Yeah.
I guess it hits harder that way.
Poor Jerry. She did not deserve Tamers.
Well, she didn't get to pick what universe she was born in.
No.
Was there an epilogue for Tamers? Did
I
she
don't believe there
recover
was.
in the end, or
There's a written epilogue in a guidebook, but it just ends with the Digimon having to go back to the digital world and everything being better, and the kids having to deal with the repercussions of what the D-Reaper did.
No, read the trauma.
Yeah, and live with that afterwards. But the Digimon aren't allowed to stay in the real world anymore after what they do.
Yep. So they get booted, and then it ends.
Yeah, they do eventually get better, and everybody gets over it, but it takes a while for some of the characters, because everybody also lost their Digimon. They had to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And a non-canon movie implied that the Digimon could come back, but it's just left as a stinger that's open-ended and was never confirmed by anybody, but the movie was declared non-canon.
Yeah. It's a shame. Like, we could probably do with a new Digimon series at this point. We've got the rerun of the first series. I think that's still going on.
Yeah, well, Koei Tecmo or whoever owns it has a formula now for their series that they don't want to shake up because toys. We're not going to get it. Tamers was a happy accident. We're never going to get that again.
No, I think Survivor is probably an outlier.
Yeah, they go
dark.
They go a bit more out there with the video games because a lot of Digimon fans are older now.
Yeah,
and because we grew up with it, so they're going to, especially if it's referencing older Digimon, they tend to go with not necessarily super mature stuff all the time, but at least a story that's coherent with actual consequences to the characters.
Yeah,
Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory can get pretty dark too, but they don't get really out there. It's just traditional storytelling where there are consequences that are permanent for certain actions.
Yeah, like consequences for actions is one thing, but yeah, murdering children in gruesome ways is another.
Yeah, that's quite dark for Digimon.
That's very dark for Digimon. I don't think there are actually any newer generation Digimon in there. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, they know the target demographic. Nobody's gonna know who Shoutmon is or any of
Nobody cares about Shoutmon. Nobody wants Shoutmon.
Nobody cares who the ones where they turned into the Digimon were. The people that are going to play a game that are old enough to experience Survive are going to be people like us that grew up with like Agumon and Gabumon.
Yeah. Or
Who
Geomon if for those. I think when did...
It'd always be worse. They could be Gomamon.
Oh, okay.
Marching fishes.
Yeah, that's all he does. It's all he does. Nobody... You're kind of sad, Gomamon.
Not his fault. It's not like they get to choose their attacks.
I mean, he does evolve into a walrus that can shoot rockets out of its face, so there's that.
Well,
he gets like rocket launches and stuff to make up for it later, so...
Yeah. Incidentally, Dracmon apparently had his origin in fusion.
Yeah, so you'll get a few that have popped up, but if most of them are from the older series, there's a definite reason for that. It's because their target demographic is older.
Yeah, he's in Cyber. He's been in a lot of stuff. Yeah, I think he's about the newest one in the teams that show up.
Yeah.
But yeah, Actually, he's got claws on his shoes in the concept art, but he doesn't have those in the game. It's kind of
They
weird.
also they also seem to go out of their way in terms of gameplay to make like the old school megas the most powerful units in the game. Like in Hacker's Memory and Cyber Sleuth, War Greymon is the best unit. Not Omnimon either, just straight War Greymon. Because
Yeah.
for some retarded reason, they made his Terraforce ability able to just ignore defense in a turn-based RPG and make him a physical attacker with steroids to the roof.
Yeah. Actually, playing through with Gearmon, I've got him up to War Growlmon now. And Fusion Blaster is ridiculous. It's just a straight column line, which does ridiculous damage.
Yeah, Guilmon usually gets busted stuff with a drawback.
The drawback in
Because,
this case is it tanks his movement speed, so he can move no more than one tile after firing it unless you cleanse it.
Yeah, the RP reason for that is he was made by a 15-year-old with a sketch pad by accident. So it's some wish list of the most powerful stuff, but he didn't think of it. Takata didn't think of any of the repercussions of what would happen if you were forcing so much power through certain abilities and the drawbacks they would have. So he has stupidly OP stuff that usually has a drawback somewhere.
Yeah. I've only gotten one mega so far, which is the story mandated Agumon evolution. In my case, it is Dino Rexmon, who is one of the strangest looking ones. It's like a Velociraptor, except its middle toe is like 3 meters long.
I only know War Greymon in the War Greymon line for his megas.
Yeah, you've got War Greymon along the Moral route, Dino Rexmon on the Harmony route, and Wrath. I'm not sure who's down there.
Yeah, there's like there's a Rise version as well, Rise Greymon, and all kinds of other ones.
Yeah, it won't be Rise Greymon. It evolves from Deltamon, I think.
Yeah, but the entire Mega Greymon line can come from Agumon. It doesn't matter where it canonically has come from before. It's canon in multiple series that any Greymon can come from an Agumon.
Yeah. That's just kind of his stapled line.
Yeah.
So yeah, still a good game. I'm nearly to the end of the story. I think I'm in chapter 10 of 10. But yeah, dead kids. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see just how the tone of the story changes when you can actually start saving people and not have them die on you.
Yeah.
Especially that last death. I'm not going to spoil who dies, but it's like it just happens out of nowhere.
Yeah, don't spoil any of the actual happenings for me, because I do want to go through it at some point, but it's a VN type game, and it would require me to set aside, a whole chunk of solo time for probably a week or two to go through it.
I know I spoiled that Lockman's got a bad end, but that's not really a spoiler. You can see that one coming a mile off.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. If you have mentioned them, I just have elected not to pay attention.
Fair enough.
So that I forget the specifics, or I pivot my brain into thinking about the character itself and its history.
So yeah, play the game for the definitely play the game for the writing though, because the combat's it's just kind of there. It exists. It's fine, but it's not what you're there for.
Yeah.
There is a few little quibbles, like there's of course the usual localization meddling happening.
Is it just to keep everything consistent with the rest of the franchise, though, or is it actual meddling?
I haven't been able to determine that yet, because I know enough of Japanese to determine that, that's not exactly what that character said.
Yeah, because they will do some things to keep it consistent with the older stuff back when 4Kids had a hand in it, and they will do some stuff like reorganizing sentences, but and the way paragraphs are laid out in speech. But and that stuff in a game like Survive, I'd be okay with. But anything that touches the content at all is where the no starts.
Yeah, in that I haven't seen anything that really touches the content, thankfully.
Yeah, I've noticed. That's where you get worried.
Yeah, there's a few little quibbles. Just mostly, there's of course the old standby of Baby Flame and Pepper Breath. Although that one's kind of expected at this point. Even though Agumon does scream out Baby Flame in English.
Baby Flame, Pepper Breath.
Yeah, not the same. But anyway. Yeah, it's a good game. But it's also a very visual novel. The story does loop and repeat itself a bit. Like parts in the story where everyone kind of goes off to do their own thing and you wander around, talk to various people, and it might mean you end up having the same conversation with 3 different characters. Which does get a bit repetitive. You could have just, put all 3 characters in the same room and done it like that, but no.
That was one thing I was really appreciative to in like the Danganronpa series and stuff. They would conveniently place everybody that needed to hear this version of the conversation together a lot.
Yeah. And if
Even
there
though
was
you were running around.
generally if there was a character who needed to be in on that conversation and was somewhere else, there was a reason
Somebody
for
else
it.
would fill, or somebody else would fill them in later, and you wouldn't have to have the same conversation twice.
Yeah. Or they were dead. Danganronpa.
Yeah, well, at that point, if they're not a neutral observer, they have a reason to have a different conversation or hear the conversation separately. That's a bit different if they're involved in the murder.
Yeah. So yeah, Danganronpa does tie things in a lot better like that. So you don't have the repetitive conversations. In some cases, it's just to give you opportunities to get your affinity up with a given character, so you can go and talk to them about other things. But I don't see why there's any reason you couldn't raise affinity with multiple characters at once. Just work it all in the one conversation.
Yeah, it's one of them things that just probably slips through the cracks because VN
Yeah.
and Deadline.
Incidentally, as far as the characters go, you can usually, for most of the main cast, the human cast anyway, you can draw a line between one of them and the original Dizzy Destined. Because this character is Mimi. With
This character. Which one is Joe?
Because
that's the one.
he's the one with the glasses.
Because Joe is the one that I love to rag on because Joe is just stupid.
Yeah, so is this version of him.
He tries his whole character is he tries to be a responsible adult because he's older than the other kids, and he's just an idiot because he doesn't realize that this is an immediate problem, and you, as an adult, you deal with immediate problems right away. You don't put things off just because you think something is more mature and important. Like, sorry, if Digimon are blowing up the city, that's more important than your studies, Joe.
Yeah, in this case, it's Joe is trying to be the responsible adult. It's what is it, Shuji? His name is. He's got the glasses, he's got the same haircut, and he's trying to be the responsible leader. But he's so far out of his depth that he's just kind of floundering.
I see.
And he tends to make up for that by just yelling and lashing out. So he's like Joe, except really angry.
I see.
So yeah. And of course, naturally, the protagonist has goggles, because that's a law.
Well, there's always a goggle head.
There's always a goggle head.
Why? I don't understand the logic.
It's a Digimon thing. The protagonist
Yeah,
will always have goggles.
Yeah, been that way since Adventure.
Yeah. That's pretty much it for my week, I think. So yeah, play Digimon Survive, especially if you catch it on sale, because it's a bit pricey on the Switch. It's also on Steam though, so you will get a bargain for it sooner or later.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting on.
Once I'm done with that, I might actually go through and I never actually finished Cyber Sleuth.
Yeah,
And
do Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory.
Yeah, do them both one hit.
Yeah, that'll help a lot, because I forgot a lot of the stuff that happened in Cyber Sleuth when I went to do Hacker's Memory and had to refresh my brain on it.
My biggest problem with Cyber Sleuth is you spend an awful lot of time hanging around in a featureless blue void.
Yeah, the digital world is not very detailed because Vita game.
Yeah, it's very boring. Do they fix that in Hacker's Memory?
You go to more interesting locations, but they do recycle a lot of them because it's an alternate story just told in the same universe.
Right.
And you're in the same town.
Okay. So, which means the blue void still exists.
Yeah, the first 3 voids you go through at the very start of Cyber Sleuth are back. After that, they start to diversify a bit, but yeah, we're talking Vita games here. So you're even when they do expand, you do get a lot more real world locations in Hacker's Memory. Like there's one level that's in just a museum that's an actual level.
Yeah.
With Digimon in it, but yeah, you do still have the generic internet highway that is just a void.
Yeah, I kind of find it hard to pin it on being a Vita game because like Persona games are on Vita.
Yeah, but this is a game that was made very fast for the Vita. Its dev time was like not even 2 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they had to crank this one out. It was basically mandated, and we're lucky it was as good as it was.
Because it does have very solid writing.
Yeah, it's a very good game. It's not a great game, but it's a very good game.
Yeah.
And Hacker's Memory tells an even better story. Hacker's Memory was made because the first one turned out to be such a surprise success, and they wanted to really sit down and clean up that story a little bit. So they tell a alternate story that's running parallel to the story going on in Cyber Sleuth that deviates slightly at the very end,
where they're actually able to invest a bit of time into it.
Yeah. So.
All right. So yeah, that's my week. Vol, what you been up to?
It's been a rough week for me. A rough week. So I didn't get a weekend. I had a brief amount of downtime from work last week to do the show, and then I had to prepare to go and travel up to Auckland for training.
Ick.
Or at least that's what they're going to call it. They're going to call it training. Which basically meant that I had to go up and attend a seminar of sorts on how to be efficient and to make the workplace efficient and so on and so forth. It's a very popular sort of waste minimization scheme that is implemented in all sorts of industries over the world called Lean. But most of it is common sense, although it does have a few tools that are slightly outside the range of common sense. But by and large, it's just going to be a huge headache for me in the future, I can see, because I'll be expected to actually start implementing stuff by magic, I presume. But
yeah, it's when it comes to seminars like that, there's always what they tell you that would be great, and for half of it, it's common sense, and the other half is, yeah, that'd be great, but my situation has, its unique quirks that are going to make it so that's impractical.
Well, I mean, part of the tools that they try to impart to you is methods of adjusting the tools to fit real situations, because they'll hear that every single time, right? Anytime they try and to teach anybody anything, they'll hear, well, but my situation is special, my situation is different, my situation has its own quirks. So it's supposed to be adaptable, but there's nothing for it in terms of adaptation except elbow grease, really. Like, you're going to be the one hashing out all of those variations and modifications. So yeah, it doesn't really change much in practical terms. Yeah, so that took up a bunch of time, and I don't know. I don't really have much of an opinion on it, really, to be honest.
I find those type of things offensive when people ask me to go do them, because it implies that I'm not doing a good enough job of it.
Well, they don't. If you work corporate, then you don't have a choice.
Yeah,
because they have got in their spreadsheets numbers for other branches which have, enthusiastically applied these things and have made X dollars worth of savings or increased profit margins by Y% or whatever. So ultimately, you've just got to deal with it. There's nothing else to be done about it. But I mean, ultimately, they did feed us. So I mean, I'll take free food. It is very easy to buy me off with free food. I like food. Hotels were pretty rubbish though compared to previously, but although previously they were effectively bribing me, so it gave me a really nice place to stay, but this time not quite so nice, still perfectly livable, but it left a little bit to be desired.
No roaches in a bed that didn't collapse on you.
Yeah, the bed was good and the shower worked. So what more can you really ask for? Let's see. So I didn't, as a result of all of that, I didn't have any time for video, really, at all, because it was, I've got to go out and eat lengthy dinners with the rest of the team type of thing, which is not like I don't enjoy it. I wasn't paying for it after all, and we got decent restaurant fare, like fine dining fare. So although for some reason, like, the hotel restaurant where we ate, because the first night we just arrived down there and then we wandered out to the local food court to get food, so that was unremarkable. But the second night we dined in at the fine dining restaurant attached to the hotel. For some reason, their drinks list was like 8 pages of gin, different kinds of gin, and there's like crammed in the back there was like a few wines and a few beers and stuff.
Let's
So
see.
someone must really, really like gin.
Like, I like gin. It's my preferred strong spirit, but I don't like it that much.
Like everything there that they had on offer was gin. I'm not really much of a gin drinker, so I mainly made do with beer repeatedly because you could basically keep ordering. It's all on the company credit card after all. So yeah, and then the second night we went out to an Indian restaurant because the only people who were emphatic about what type of food they wanted to eat with the Indian contingent, so we went out for Indian, and I ate an absolutely colossal amount of food because most people at the table, for some reason, by the end of the meal they'd only eaten like 3/4 of what food they ordered, and I ended up eating pretty much everything else. It was like, I'm not going to turn down free food. I didn't have to pay for it, so
How many people were there with you?
from the let's see. The Christchurch contingent was 4 people, including myself, and the Wellington contingent was 4 people, including myself. The Auckland people, I think that they probably supplied about 14 people to the training course, but because Auckland people will think they're better than everybody else, they didn't want to eat with us or anything like that. They basically kept to themselves, which is fine because they were kind of scrotty with us, to be honest. They kept complaining about things that I have no control over. But yeah, I don't really care about them. They can do what they want. So yeah, it wasn't a horrible trip or anything, but it did leave me with basically no mental energy to do anything else because you get up early in the morning to go in and start listening to these seminars and doing the various exercises at 8:30 in the morning, and you keep going until after 6, and then you have a great deal of debate over where you're going to eat, and then you're out eating at a restaurant until 9, and then you get back to the hotel room and you just basically collapse. So, yeah, not much video. Unfortunately, this is overlapping perfectly with the Lotto event season, the main of the 2 Lotto event seasons for the year, because there's always 2 in FGO every year. The what has historically been Nerofest and Christmas, and this is the Nerofest one, which this year has been replaced by Grail Front. So I didn't have much time to farm Lotto boxes. I think that this is going to be a very low yield year for me. I'm not going to get very many, which is annoying because the need for EXP has gone significantly higher with the level cap raised on Grailed Servants. So I'm sort of irked about that. But, you can't win them all. And Lotto farming is unhealthy for the brain anyway. Tends to turn it into goo. Most people who are serious about farming in FGO just use an auto clicker they'll set up a perfect farming loop, and I do have the servants to do that for certain nodes now, and then they'll just use an auto clicker to just farm hundreds of Lotto boxes. There are 2 problems with this. Number 1, technically speaking, you're breaking the terms of service, and they can just decide to ban you at any time if they feel like you're cheating. It doesn't happen very often, but there's no way to rule out that it will, and then that's all she wrote. There's no recourse, and I don't really like the risk. And the other thing is that if you really do farm 500 Lotto boxes every week, you've got to open those. And then you have to sort the contents. That doesn't really sound like fun at all, to be honest. Because the way the Lotto boxes open, they're going to stack lots of stacks of 1 and 2 and 3 of EXP embers in your mailbox, and you're going to have to empty them one at a time. And this is not really my idea of a good way to spend an evening. So, while it annoys me that I can't farm Lotto boxes, it is also probably going to preserve a certain quantity of my sanity that hasn't otherwise been preserved in years past. It being Scatfest, unfortunately named Scatfest, otherwise known by people who don't want to say Scatfest because it sounds incredibly gross, otherwise known as Shisho Fest, or what is the actual event named? They keep changing the names for English from what we're familiar with. Land of Shadows Battleground Blitz is what they have called it in English. And it's basically the introduction of Grailfront. So I've done five maybe now. I've done 5 of the Grailfront battles. There are 7 in the event in total, and when you complete all 7, you get the Grail, which, according to the background story, Skaha just has, because she said she found it, and it's hers to do with what she wants, and so she's staging this thing in order to make the Master better trained at fighting Grail Wars. But, shonky story aside, it's a really fun little battle mode. In a lot of ways, far superior to what they generally offer. In my mind, infinitely superior to challenge quests, to the exhibition matches challenge quests that they have in Nerofest and Guildfest historically, which I hated, because while the first set were interesting and like, oh well, I've got a very limited pool of servants, I need to come up with a strategy to get through this. As the game sort of expanded both in power, both vertically due to power creep and horizontally due to the increased number of servants on the roster, the challenge quests, in order to stay challenging, had to become more and more obtuse, to the point where if you weren't a whale who could, devise a strategy based in combat theory and implement it using the ideal servants for the roles that you wanted, if you aren't that guy, then you've got to spend a lot of time hashing out a strategy by failing over and over again in a game with really long load times in order to establish a way to push through a particular challenge. Or alternatively, just look it up online until you can find somebody who's done the job with a similar composition to something you can create, adapt that, and then force that through by resetting the fight until you get the ideal hand of cards at the start and you don't get crit out of existence on turn 1. Ultimately, it turns into an RNG fest which favours whales. And that's just not really fun at all. And it's just because of the way the game develops over time. Like, the early ones were interesting because they didn't have to try very hard to make them challenging. And everybody had similar sort of servants available. Because there would be some people who are whales and they would be able to use, NP5 Gil to AoE every stage down or whatever. But that was pretty much the cap of power. And MP5 Gil is not really, he's not useless or anything, but he's not really, meta right now. Because the meta has moved quite significantly far away from that and is specialized into all sorts of different things. But when they try and make a challenge, they will have to start off now by disabling certain things that are core meta strategies as the first move. But that, as collateral damage, also tends to wreck people's chances who aren't optimized. Like, I've got a well-developed roster, but I'm still not I'm not a whale by any stretch of the imagination. I don't even have the sort of strategic options available that Ari does, and he almost never plays. But I am still, clipped by that collateral damage. Now, I know that in theory, Lasengel designs every challenge, every battle in the game to be beaten using 3-star and lower servants. But that just has to be a technical possibility. It doesn't actually have to be practical in order for it to pass muster. And, there are various YouTubers in that who basically make their content out of doing this. Like, there's one particular well-known one, Honoko Green, who basically does everything with Ku. Like, everything.
Just vanilla Ku?
Yeah.
Right.
OG Ku. I mean, he's gotten more strengthenings than basically any other servant in the game, and he's now, he was a cockroach before, now he's almost impossible to kill. And,
that's not what Carnival Phantasm says.
It's sort of playing against type, though, right? Because his battle continuation keeps getting better, and his protection from arrows keeps getting better. So basically, he's really, really, really effective now. He's got he got just recently, past couple months at some point. Okay, last month I think, or maybe it was early this month. He got another strengthening, which means that his guts ability also gives him increased attack power inversely proportional to the percentage of health he has remaining. So he hits harder and harder the lower on health he is. But that's just the latest in a long line of strengthenings he's gotten. I think may have even gotten more in Japan since then. But yeah, so you can do these things, but the way the game mechanics have developed over time, and the range of servants, when you have things like Castoria, who has severely perturbed the balance of the game just recently in North America, and now much more recently Summer Ibuki Doji in the JP server has got everybody very, very worried. When those things happen and they have to start designing content around it to still be challenging, it screws everybody who isn't, at the absolute bleeding edge of the meta. It would be sort of like if like in general terms, you needed to always have the very best and latest thing in order to advance through the current event. Like that's what it's like every time you ram up against the summer challenges, and they will often have very obtuse solutions, but they will require very specific routes through them. And I'm sick of it. I'd already decided by the last time that I wasn't doing Neurofest anymore. I was just going to do the lottery part, and then I guess they just abolished it, and I'm cool with that. So I mustn't be the only one who was just completely hacked off at it. I know there are a few people who really looked forward to it, but they're people who have crazy rosters, so I don't care.
Also people that have crazy money.
Yeah, well, that's how you get the crazy roster, unless you're RSDL. But yeah, a lot of things cease to be a problem if your numbers are based on NP5 for 5-star servants. But Grailfront is a different ball of wax, being a tactics game. Now, I mentioned sort of loosely the rules of it last time, but there are a few flies in the ointment in practice that make it very, very much harder to use. So you're almost always outnumbered and outgunned. And this is because they use a very, very, very aggressive style of limiting what you can take. You are given allocated slots sorted by class for servants. Like, so one Grailfront battle might allow you to take one rider, one assassin, one caster, and one lancer, or something like that. And so you've got to set up a team like that, except you have a very, 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 very limited team allocation as well. Now, for a lot of people who don't have well-developed rosters, who aren't like loaded down with SSRs, you will never even think about the team points allocation. Even if you are one of those people, you still will have to think about it this time, because your team does not have room for very many servants. Sometimes you're going to want to go down market and fill out slots with low-star servants just to have warm bodies, and sometimes you're going to want to lean more powerful servants and juice up your amount of output that you're able to create at fewer points. And the other thing that is an interesting twist on the paradigm is that because of the very limited points available, CEs are now a sometimes thing. You only bother to equip a CE if you really, really think it's going to dramatically affect your combat capability. And there are a lot of CEs that are classically useful that are now no longer useful because of the game mode, and a lot of servants that were useless that are now very useful. So when you normally what you would do in a battle, no matter whether it's a challenging one or a regular one, is that things like starting NP charge are very useful. They're almost ubiquitously useful, unless you've got something like MLB Black Grail, in which case then you be taking a different tack. But in this mode, you're just going to get the payoff for that one time, and since every battle is fought basically one round at a time, it's not actually going to benefit you very much. It might, depending on the strategic situation, but it's normally not going to benefit you very much when you're going to be engaging in fresh rounds of battle repeatedly to get plus 50% starting NP charge just the one time on your first engagement, because your first engagement might not even really be a valuable one. So you've got to think a bit more carefully about what sort of CEs you use, or if you even want to invest that many points in them at all, because remember, CEs cost almost as much as servants do to field. So it's not really safe to just whack a CE on every single one. I've used an awful lot of, like, I create EXP bombs for leveling up CEs, which means I've got a lot of like level 50 1-star CEs just sort of floating around, waiting to be used as EXP for CE leveling projects. And I've actually gotten a lot of use out of those EXP bombs as just stat sticks, because you want every little, because they're 1-star CEs, and you want every little bit of damage that you can scrape up, or every little bit of durability you can scrape up. The other thing is that defensive tactics are much, much more useful, because the goal in this tactics game is to take out the enemy commander, or to take out all his servants, and to protect your enemy commander, or to not lose all your servants. So because you've got this other way to win, defensive tactics become much more valuable, because defensive tactics are never going to avail you a damn thing unless you're trying to stall out the opponent on purpose in a challenge quest, which has become increasingly risky proposition, and a very, very time consuming one as the HP pools get higher, but damage from stall teams doesn't get higher. So things like guts become very, very valuable, and things like multi-turn evades become very, very valuable. And interestingly, Cuchulainn has both of those. And also, so does Heracles. So you'll find that a lot of people will say that these two have been their MVPs in this event.
Gotta put the Gladiator.
So things will be broken up where you've got standard style battles of for FGO, which last one round. So if you're attacking, then you'll take one turn, and then your opponent will take one turn, or if they're attacking you, vice versa, type of thing. And you can use your servant's abilities during those combats. However, if you buff yourself during one of those combats, that buff will not tick down. It will tick down for the turn that you used in combat, but it will not tick down outside of combat. However, your cooldowns will tick down when you press the end turn button after having moved your servants around. So if you've got a servant which you can position strategically and move around strategically in such a way to give you a bit of breathing room in terms of your turns, you can do things like put multiple gutses up during a fight, which is usually not practical, or you can use your evade fight after fight after fight by cooling it down outside of battle, or you can heal yourself. Like in round 3, my MVP was Ruler Martha, who ended up with stacks of her debuff nullifier, because I was just stalling between fights so that she could keep healing and putting up her debuff defense. So, and of course also getting to reuse her NP charge. So there's lots of things that you can do by the way you position your servants. But what most people found in the first 2 rounds, and this is something that I played around with myself, is that the number one strategy for the first couple rounds, where you're somewhat evenly matched with your opponent and you have a berserker slot available, is you go with the Ilyasville von Einsburn strategy of just sending Berserker to do everything for you. You put the Glad in Gladiator and he makes everybody fall over. Because Heracles can kill or almost kill most opposing servants with an Unga Bunga Buster Brave chain. Even though every servant has a break bar, but you can chunk a break bar in one round. And also he can evade. Also he has his legendary Bond CE. And also he's gotten a strengthening recently, which makes his guts ability stackable with other guts abilities, which means it's stackable with his Bond CE, meaning that you can
have at least 6 guts now.
Well, there's 3 on the Bond CE, and there's 1 on his his actual kit. If you wanted, you could take another one with his with the Mystic Code, although I don't usually use that one. But more importantly, while you are living off the ones attached to his Bonsai and so on, if you aren't using them up, then you can stack a guts, pass turns until it comes back up, and stack another guts, and so on. So you can basically keep rolling gutses going. And the other part of that strengthening is that he gets a buster buff for 5 turns every time he actually triggers a guts. And you will, because damage is quite high these days. When usually if you take a couple rounds of damage from a opponent, you're going to lose your first health bar, because you've got break bars as well in this one. But yeah, so putting the Glad and Gladiator is a highly viable strategy, and so after the first couple rounds, they just don't let you take Berserkers anymore, which makes things a lot harder. So it's a very interesting and engaging game mode with a lot of headroom for development, and most people are saying this is the most fun they've had with FGO's game mechanics in years. And it's still got some pretty serious teething troubles to work out. Like, it militates a method of roster development that is very, very hard against what you would normally do for the vast majority of the game, and yet this mode only comes around a couple times a year. I think that it would stand, if they're going to do that it would stand to be much more frequently used as a event type, because most people aren't going to have their low-end servants really well developed, and the points totals are so aggressively low that you're pretty much forced to use no CEs and cheap servants. I'm not quite sure whether that's a good or a bad thing. There are good and bad points about it. On the good side of things, there's a lot more variation and a lot of servants that wouldn't see a lot of use otherwise, but have like usefully positioned skills or a good guts or a good evade or something like that. They'll get a lot of mileage as sort of like stallers in a pinch and that sort of thing to keep the enemy servants distracted from attacking your master and so on like that. But people aren't going to delve into developing those servants because Grailfront doesn't show up often enough to devote a lot of resources to it. It's better to just try again until you get through on using what you've got, rather than really develop your strategy for Grailfront. If Grailfront appeared more frequently, then people would think a lot more about how to develop Grailfront strategies and servants that are good in Grailfront. And that's sort of sad, because you would see a lot more servants get used. The way things currently are, farming is so king over everything that only thing people care about is farming. And because challenge quests appear in basically every event, servants that are very good in challenge quests get a lot of time. But this favours a whole bunch of different servants that don't normally see a lot of play. So the other alternative, of course, is to just concede that, well, people are going to develop their 4 stars and up first, so we're going to have to let people take more servants. And the reason why I'm not all in with this idea either, despite the fact that my roster leans very hard on 4 star and up, is that in that scenario, the people who are whaling have the room to ruffle stomp the Grailfront by using heaps of OP SSRs. And if the development team should then get Gunshine and decide to develop around their level of power, the game just becomes harder for everybody and it becomes a chore like challenge quests did. So, yeah, I think that there's some room to develop. I'm not quite sure what you would do exactly though, and I think small tweaks would be better than big ones. The other thing is that the AI is unbelievably unpredictable. I've had rounds where I got absolutely destroyed because the AI just seemed to have a masterstroke for everything that I did. I was never able to juke it. I was never able to trick it. It had its plan, and it just ran all the dudes straight down the middle and wrecked me. Because it outnumbers me, and it outguns me. So if it really decides to bring all of its firepower to bear at once, with sort of like full game knowledge of what it is that I'm doing and how to best counter it, then you're going to end up in a situation where the AI can just wreck you, and there's not really a lot you can do. Most of the time, the AI does not do this. Unfortunately, some of the time, the AI does incredibly stupid things. Like the Grailfront 5th round that I just did before the show, it ended up with me totally overrunning the AI in a situation where I was massively outmatched because the AI just started being an idiot. So I just sent Squirtoria down the middle, and she absolutely persecuted the couple of weak servants that the enemy had kept back. But the AI was trying to move all of its servants through the same choke point and then wasting all of its movement abilities, rearranging them around the choke point to try and get through instead of actually attacking. If they had just attacked turn upon turn, they might have been able to wear me down. But instead, they wasted all their points doing stuff around the choke point while Squirtoria chased their master around the map until he was dead. So, yeah, the AI's got some issues, but I think if you made the AI too clever at the sort of number of servants that the AI is being given, you would get overrun every time. So, yeah, I think that it's a game mode that requires some tuning, but it's been in play in Japan for a couple of years now, so they've had a good opportunity to sort of review how it operates and that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's where the lay of the land is for FGO at the moment. FGO Japan, on the other hand, is in interesting times. They've basically declared that they're going to stop doing reruns of events because they want to put more new events for 3-week periods rather than 2-week periods and not waste half the year doing reruns. And I have very, very mixed feelings about this because, number one, it's a very cynical way of playing to FOMO, because these events will only happen once and it's going to force people to sink more time into it, and it's also going to make it harder to guarantee that a banner will appear after the first time because that event is not going to be revisited. So the best that you can hope for is sort of an anniversary banner of it, which may or may not appear, and you don't know what form or for how long or anything like that. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding that, and a lot of people are very, very unhappy about it. The American, or rather we'll say FGO Global contingent, is more unhappy about it than JP, and I think that that's largely because we're used to having Clairvoyance EX for the future, and so we are looking ahead at what we're going to lose already. So yeah, that basically means that all the, as far as anybody can see, because they've been very slow at bringing out main interludes and that sort of thing and replayable events and whatnot, it's looking an awful lot like all welfare servants from now on are just going to be one and done. You either get them the time they come out or you don't get them at all. So yeah, people are a bit worried about that. I like 3-week events because I don't have the sort of free time to crazy farm events and really, really focus on them. I just play a little bit after work, that's all. So I kind of favour the 3-week format, but I'm a bit uncertain about them just not being able to repeat events, especially if it affects the banners. And considering like the way they deployed it this time is what really got people's dander up, because they did 3 different banners rather than 2 different banners for the summer, because there are just way more servants this year for the summer event in Japan. And then they did an anniversary banners for the previous ones, meaning there are a huge number of banners up at one time, and it's kind of hard to see that as anything other than a cynical ploy to get people to spend money on St. Quartz. Because the summer banner will probably not be revisited again, and it's been overlaid, rather than having a summer rerun and the banners are up for a while, and then the new summer event, and then the new banners are up for a while. This time they just overlaid them all on top of each other. And nobody's got the St. Quartz for that. And the other reason that people are a bit worried there is that Ibuki Doji is the most broke servant that they have released since Castoria. It's not like the servants that existed before have stopped being powerful because Ibuki Doji has come out. So Ibuki Doji Summer is basically the new Berserker variant of Ibuki Doji Saber, which will be coming out in a little bit in Global this year. The Saber version of her is a very underwhelming Buster Gorilla, who didn't really have much in the way of applications and was immediately power crept by everything about her. She would have been legendarily good if she was released in the first half of year 1, but she's barely noticeable at the current stage where American server is now. But Ibuki Doji Summer it's a Berserker servant who has a kit that is perfectly tailored to be able to 3-turn farm basically any node in the game. She's a perfect farmer. And when I say perfect, I don't mean, oh, well, this is the role that that she ideally fits in. I mean that the only way to make a farmer better than Ibuki Doji in the current meta would be to release her again with better numbers. That's how good she is. So, considering arts looping was already the dominant farming system, this is really concerning to a lot of people, because if she's just an outlier that people pick up if they've got the quartz for her and don't if they don't want her or don't have the quartz for her or they're saving for someone else, then that's fine. But if they start to balance nodes around her level of power, it will basically mean that for anybody that doesn't have her, or maybe you could get away with Fey Knight Lancelot, then basically farming will become a huge chore for everybody and people will quit the game. Because she's ratcheted up the power too much. Because she's a berserker. Which means her output is just going to be high against everybody and you don't have to worry about the drawbacks of a berserker if the opponent never gets a turn. So yeah, there's lots and lots and lots of inherent problems with releasing Ibuki Doji Summer on the meta of the game. Everybody's sort of holding their breath to see what happens next. That, and everybody's also horribly disappointed because Skadi Ruler came out for Summer, and she has got the same kit as regular Skadi, except slightly better in some ways. And people are very mad about that because it basically means that all of the quick fans are still stuck with the exact same playstyle, except now they have to take 3 Skadis instead of 2. So, yeah. Summer in Japan has been a little bit of a catastrophe on the meta design front. But, yeah, the global server's still riding high for the time being. But yeah, that's the only gaming I've really done. As far as Final Fantasy XIV is concerned, I logged on long enough last night to basically patch and not do much else. I signed on just before the show to unlock the island thing, but I haven't really done much since the show's been going. I've just been running in circles around the hut. So, yeah, I guess I'll tinker with that a bit. I am excited to get into it. It's just that there's just not enough hours in the day, you know? And since the lab manager cancelled my leave so that he could go away, yeah, I'm not feeling like I'm going to get much time in the near future. I have barely managed to scratch the surface of the first title update of Sunbreak as well, and it's really frustrating to me. I need to, like, be able to clone myself so I can play multiple things at once. It's not fair.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't really have much else to talk about. I haven't picked up any new anime or anything to watch. I've just been watching my Blu-rays of older anime most of the time. But yeah, so I guess I'll just leave it there because I don't really have much else to cover.
All right. Let's go to a break because we're over an hour and a half. Burn.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Mike is muted.
Did you fall asleep? Oh, I thought maybe you dozed off while I was talking about FGO.
No. Although I admit this pearl gathering quest for the Kujin is, yeah. Anywho.
Let's get some music, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
So, Vol, did you have anything else for your week?
Nope, I don't have anything else for my week.
Righto. So, we'll just jump straight into my week and try and blow through it. First up, work happened. I've been putting out fires all week. I haven't been able to come up for air at all. There's been some disaster going on with some job somewhere every single day. And most of them involve me having to call the factory and go, where's the customer stuff again? And then this week, compounded on that, when one job in particular still got the rest of their order, but they didn't get the control panel. And so they're trying to install this thing, and it doesn't work.
You kind of need all the bits to install it properly.
Yeah, they don't have a control panel. They can't turn them on. And so I spent 2 days hunting this down, and this was FedEx's fault. They had not lost the thing, but forgot to put it on the truck. And so I got it out there same day and told them, you've missed a delivery. Get that thing out there right now, and no, I'm not going to pay you for it. And if I don't get a phone call from the customer in the next 2 hours that says it's over there because you're literally right next to them at your warehouse, I'm going to consider using other people for my shipping thing. And that got their attention pretty fast, and they got it out there same day.
Ah, surprise.
And then they got the control panel, and the factory had messed up. The drones at the factory floor had wired this thing for a 460 volt 3-phase. This is a 208 volt single phase control panel that they needed. So they're not happy, and our control panels are all made in house. They're not made stock. They're made to fit each individual system, and it has to have the correct full load amperage ranges on it. You can't just make a control panel that's generic. They all have a FLA range of usually between 1 and 2 amps that goes anywhere from 1 to 30. Any two numbers within that system, that range right next to each other. So each panel has to be wired by the factory itself. So we don't just have stock panels and the FLA you need laying around. Well, we lucked out this time. There was one that would technically work. But the only way I was able to talk the factory and just sending this to the customer, because they're the ones that screwed up, not me, was I went back and checked my order to the factory. The guy that is our contact at the supplier called the factory, because we had both written on our order the correct voltage. And he did some inventory digging of what they had at the factory. He's like, look, we got one thing that'll work, and you and me need to figure out some things to both of us send the factory and the higher-ups at Weil, and get them to send this extra panel they have down there for a week and make it a technically used product until we can get their panel back and rewire it, because otherwise this is going to be 2 weeks out. And they're already sending messages that, will Liberty panel work? Can we get the warranty on this? And that got Weil's attention real fast when we mentioned that, and they're like, oh no, we can't let that happen. And so they shipped it out next day air, which was nice.
Well, now you know how you can get them to pull finger.
Yeah. So I just sent both Tim and the higher ups at Weil the guy's email that said he was going to use Liberty Pump, and that got their attention real fast. So now they have to hang on to that panel for a week or two while the current panel makes its meanders its way back to the factory through the mail system. They have to rewire it at the factory, and then they have to ship it back down there, and then the customer will have to pack up the temporary panel and send it back, and I had to dig up RMAs for both of these.
Yeah.
And while digging up RMAs doesn't sound involved or complicated, people have a way of making them complicated. You just they make you have to hand fill them each of them out, and they have to be the specific RMA for that part. Otherwise, the warranty's voided because suppliers are dumb like that.
Yeah.
So just a colossal pain in the butt that was running through my butt all week this week. And it was honestly starting to drive me insane. I was losing my mind on this particular job. And there were other minor jobs that weren't quite as stupid as that one, but involved the customer confusing somebody else's shipment with theirs and accidentally kidnapping the wrong pump system. That was one. And there were all kinds of other little tiny ones that I don't remember off the top of my head. It was a mess. And then we had the normal workload for everything on top of everything else. And then we had a meeting on Friday with the Savannah River nuclear plant people, and I had to explain to these idiots that 150 feet ahead is the equivalent of having a 40-story building. Feet ahead is not how much pipe you have to run the water through. Feet ahead is a calculation you do based on the friction of the water and what it has to go through, what it's consistent of, and the amount of turns and vertical or changes in elevation that the water has to go through. They had buried these things in a 10-story deep pit is where this water's going underneath the nuclear plant. And I had to explain to them, look, 150 feet is insane. Nobody can meet 150 feet ahead with one system. It just won't work. You've got to get that feet ahead down to, I can do 110 with my best system.
Well,
but
your system, like, if you're going to handle that sort of pressure, normally you would be doing a custom-built system engineered in-house for something of that scope, because it's not something that there'll be a commercial package for.
Yeah, and we sell to large companies and businesses all the time, giant pumps, but this isn't a case of it being a giant pump. This is when you get to that level of feet ahead, you don't know how the water's going to perform, and these pumps cannot handle backflow of a certain pressure amount. And if too much water is in the pipes flowing backwards, or just stuck in the pipes and not moving, then it puts strain on the impeller and on the pump engine. And our pumps just aren't rated for anything over 110 at our best. We have some stainless steel explosion proofs that can do 110, and that's it. And 110's on the upper end of it. We're really not supposed to sell those things above 90 for those ones. And more realistically, you're looking somewhere between 30 and 80 is what we would normally sell for the bigger ones. And 150 is just insane. And I had to explain this to the customer, and my solution was, of course, dig another pit and buy another system so that I can sell you two of the same thing. But he actually seemed to like that, so I hope he goes with that idea. Now, this was extra funny because they wanted to do this meeting over Google instead of meeting in person, which I was thankful for because I really didn't want to, drive 4 or 5 hours down to Savannah. But they wanted the opossum on it too.
What for?
Because the opossum's the one that initiated this job way back before I took I took all the responsibilities over, and so they wanted him on it, and he was all worried the camera was going to turn on, and they would see his ugly, unkempt opossum face. And then he comes into the office because I've got the Google thing pulled up on my computer, and I have a microphone over there on my wireless headset for answering the phone. So I just set everything up, and it was okay. He walks in there with his iPad, where he's taking the call, about a quarter of the way through it, and you start hearing a quadruple echo if you're sitting at my desk, from my voice in my own head, my headphones, the opossum speakers, and the echo that's feeding back through my microphone.
Ugh.
And I had to explain to him, no, you need to stay in the rec room. We can't both be in the same room when we're on the same call like this, with them able to hear both our microphones. It won't work. And the reason I needed... Yeah, I needed to be on the call on my computer because I needed to screen share with these people and explain on the cut sheets, look, this is as big as we can go. And so yeah, that was a mess. But my solution to them was build another pit halfway up the run and just split the head in half and we'll just dump all this excess water into another basin, and it can move it the rest of the way after that.
That's all you really can do.
Yeah, there's really no other realistic solution other than a booster system, which are very complicated, and we don't manufacture them, so I'm not giving them that solution because I can't charge them for it. This is what happens when you get your salespeople to do engineering for you, by the way.
Well, I mean, they should know the pitfalls. It's common sense.
Yeah, so this has just been that job's turned into a colossal mess with the future ones they want to order, because they do want to order them from us, and they are massive systems that have all the bells and whistles, and we've got a good chance of being the ones that get the contract, but I've got to babysit these people and help them engineer this thing if I want to keep that chance high. So I've got to make sure I'm forefront in their mind and just dealing with them. They're a pain in the ass. And then just a whole lot of other miscellaneous work stuff drove me crazy all week. I would get home and I would mostly die. There was a couple days when I came home, died, got up, and did some Final Fantasy stuff though. And yeah. So on other days though, when there was 1 or 2 days where I got home and I didn't die immediately. So but I didn't have enough to the willpower to get on and do roulettes and stuff in Final Fantasy, so I just booted up a single player game. Well, I didn't really want to keep progressing Monster Hunter because I'm at the end game already, and if I just keep going through it right now, all I'll do is just make my weapons stupidly good for what they're at, and I'll just keep zooming ahead of you guys. So I put Monster Hunter on the back burner after I beat Scorn Magnamalo the week before, who, by the way, will one-shot you with pretty much everything he does.
He is an excessively angry boy.
His damage numbers are, relative to the rest of Rise, insane.
Well,
Everything.
He is Master Rank 100 Capstone Monster. Wouldn't you be disappointed if he didn't kick your butt?
Yeah, it's just because the rest of Rise has been so far below the Scorn Magnamalo tier. It's quite the jump. It took I full carded 3 times the first time I did him, and it took a very, very careful play to do him right. But the consolation is he has very little HP. So if you can get rolling on him, you can bully him.
I'm not concerned about how much HP he has. I'm concerned about how much HP his tail has.
It has not. It's a standard Magnamalo tail. So
remember, we did that together. We did those fights together on the 3 or 4 new monsters last week after the show.
Yeah. So
that tail, man.
Yeah, Scorn Magnamalo's tail is not glued on like Nargacuga's is.
Regular Magnamalo's tail is not too bad usually, so...
Yeah, it's about the same proportion. The rest of his parts feel a little tougher, although by the end of each Scorn Magnamalo fight, I start getting desperate and just taking damage where I can get it and stop caring about parts, because he's just too dangerous. Because if you get Blast Blight, a bunch of his attacks are double hits if you get Hellfire Blight, and that will just kill you.
Oh, fun.
Like, if you... I think he can be captured.
Should be able to. I don't think he's an Elder Dragon.
Well, yeah, I mean, afflicted monsters also aren't Elder Dragons, so you still can't capture them.
Yeah, I think you can capture Scorn Magnamalo, but I would have to check on that. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, he's a very angry boy. He's a fun fight, but he's quite a step up for the rest of the game. And his moveset is all of his moves that involve Hellfire are totally different from regular Magnamalo. Or if they are the same, he can do it 3 times when he's enraged instead of 2.
Oh!
So basically, he's the Magnamalo that they big up to regular Magnamalo to be in the storyline for a base Rise.
Yeah, he's a very scary boy. I feel with practice I could get him down because the timings are also slightly adjusted on all the stuff that carries over, and it would just take practice. But yeah, your first fight through him, you're just gonna get whomped. Yeah. But I'm okay with that. I wish more monsters were at the Scorn Magnamalo tier. Hopefully they release some, because
apparently there's an all new monster coming out in the next title update. So
as well as a new Angry Rosebush.
I don't want more Angry Rosebush. Regular Rosebush is mean enough.
This is Flaming Rosebush.
Oh boy, I hate that.
Espinaz is just mean.
I don't care about his attacks or his debuffs. I care that he takes so long for me to run down and hit the tail on. Because his tail, as a dual blade user, is in the perfect worst spot for me to get damage, unless I buzzsaw down the body. And then most of my damages go into the body.
Yep.
It just drives me nuts when monsters are like that.
Yeah, apparently Flaming Espinas, if previous incarnations is any indication, is a lot more aggressive.
Yeah. So, you guys have still got quite a few master ranks to get to catch up to the current content.
Well, the thing with master ranks is it's just raw time you've got to put in to get them, and raw time is something neither of us have an abundance of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've put the game on hold since I beat Scorn Magnamalo and did a few the last few of the master rank quests that are just normal ass master rank quests. I haven't done any anomaly farming because those monsters take forever to kill sometimes. I just didn't want to spend eons in every single hunt, and I wanted something fairly quick. So I just continued to clean up the regular master rank stuff and finish the follower quests that were available and the new ones that popped up. And that's where I decided to put it on the shelf for a little bit because there just ain't a whole lot of reason for me to continue progressing past the point I'm at unless I really want to do Curio min-maxing, but that seems like much of a muchness.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, so, right now there's not much beyond Scorn Magnamalo, so...
Yeah, so I will likely leave it there until y'all get caught up to where I'm at, and I'll just... or y'all are playing and we want to play together, and I'll just leave it there. Because yeah, I just I don't have much I really want to progress through solo, because I just don't like most of the weapons in Rise.
Yeah, Rise kind of messed everything up in a lot of ways. They've compensated for a good amount of it in Sunbreak by basically making everything faster, but
the wire bug is still a thing.
The wire bug is still a thing.
It does not feel good, even though I only have 2 Monster Hunters really under my belt. I've poked at the other ones, but I only really have 2 under my belt. Yeah. The wire bug just feels like it was clearly not intended to ever be a thing that's used. With the design of these weapons, you have to radically change the way the weapons work to accommodate the wire bug, and even Sunbreak doubled down on that. And for a lot of weapons, I just don't like it.
I really, really hate the feeling that now I've got cooldowns.
Yeah.
I don't want to build around reduced cooldown time, but a lot of builds really militate in that direction. And like, if you're going to give me a counter, I don't want that counter to go on cooldown, because it'll become part of the way I play. I don't want to turn around and go, that tool that I had in my toolbox is no longer there. Yeah, it's very, very frustrating. I'd rather not have it at all and have it be balanced around that, rather than being balanced around, I've got this thing that is now on an arbitrary cooldown. So sometimes you just, no matter how good your personal abilities are, because the timings didn't line up, you just can't use it right now. Yeah, but that's not what type of gameplay I want out of Monster Hunter. It very much isn't.
Yeah, the thankfully with dual blades, the only thing I really need cooldown reduction for, you do have to take it, is you need the drill ability when you can squeeze it in, but because it doesn't latch onto most monster parts, it's not essential. And the other reason is to keep your sharpening buff up as much as you can, so that you don't have to stop and sharpen, because their new way of balancing dual blades, since stamina's become dumb, is to force you to just lose a gazillion sharpness and every time you hit something, because you're hitting so fast so often now. So other than that, dual blades play exactly the same. You just have to stop every 30 seconds and put the little wire bug silk on your dual blades, so you have a little trail of white stuff coming off your dual blades.
Oh my!
And so that when you dodge, you get your sharpness back. So I've picked the weapon that probably has the least interaction with wire bugs possible, the way I play it especially. But man, every other weapon feels like it revolves around the wire bugs, and I just don't like the wire bugs.
Some more than others, but no other weapon really escapes it too much. But thankfully, you can almost guarantee that the wire bug, at least in its current form, is not going to be back for Generation 6.
Yeah, the thing I'm concerned about is a bunch of the new moves, because I've had to radically rejigger the movesets with the wire bug skills and the new switch skills. I'm wondering how much of that they'll feel obligated to bring back, because people will be mad if they do like it, like the longsword stuff.
Historically, they have not felt obligated to bring back anything, no matter how much people like.
Generations
have completely discarded entire weapons many times in the past.
Yeah, Generations in particular had the stance system with something very similar to what we've got now with the Silkbind techniques. And aside from maybe 3 or 4 of those, they all got trashed. Some of them came back as Silkbinds, but for Worlds, yeah, there was a lot that most of them didn't come back at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Greatsword got one, and I want to say Chargeblade got another one of them, and that was about it.
So yeah, that's been Monster Hunter for me. It's we did fight the other 3 monsters, of the other monsters. So we got Bagel Goose, who's Bagel Goose, and we already talked about Bagel Goose. And then we fought the Metal Wraths and Lucent as a group. I'd already done them before y'all got there, but we went back and we did them as a group. And the Wraths were a lot less HP heavy than I remember them being, but otherwise I think I called them pretty good on the show.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was also the not having it pointing its snout at you the entire time assisted you quite a bit.
Yeah.
In terms of kill time.
Yeah, because somebody was always able to be whacking on the monster because he's not breathing the nuclear fire right in your face the whole time. So the kill times were a lot faster on those two than I thought they would be. However, like I mentioned with Lucent Nargacuga on the show, that tail is on with glue, super glue, that is then further duct taped and stapled on. It does not come off.
I don't know why they do that sort of thing. It's very strange to me. I mean, in the future, I think I'll just cap him every time rather than killing him.
Yeah, because that tail is the biggest pain in the button with that monster. Getting that thing off is difficult.
Because I'm interested in trying out the Nargacuga heavy bowgun because it's like monomaniacally focused on doing exactly one thing with maximum mobility and power.
Oh yeah,
and I'm sort of interested to try it out. But
definitely cap him then.
But I don't want to farm him by killing him because I don't want to have to cut their tail every time.
Yeah, he is a giant pain in the rear with his tail. But other than that, he's just Nargacuga with a few more moves.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and he was trivial for me. Like his damage hits like a wet noodle. I could basically stand in everything that he did, and it wouldn't really matter all that much.
Yeah, his poison stuff, because I was playing really loosey-goosey and was taking risks, got close to almost getting me in cart range. But
the thing with that is it's just poison.
Yeah.
Which means I went in for my first fight with him with 3 antidote decorations, so I ignored his poison entirely.
Yeah.
It didn't afflict me even once. You can't do that with Wraths because it's toxin. It's not poison.
Yeah.
But Nargacuga's poison is just regular garden variety weak source poison, and so I didn't need to use any antidotes or herbal remedies or anything. It just bounced off, and as such did no damage, which basically disarms a large chunk of his moveset.
Yeah, because a bunch of his crap that's new is poison needles flying down from the sky in various flavors and shapes and directions.
Yeah, and it does trivial damage. It's supposed to just poison you, and that's the tactical value of it, except that if you've got 3 antidote decorations, that suddenly ceases to become a thing, and there's entire moves that you can just ignore and go in on as an opportunity to do damage.
Yeah. So, did rejigger my set at the very end after we did our playthrough together. Went and got, I think, 1 or 2 more pieces of 1 or 2 more Silver Rathalos kills to get the pieces I needed for that. And got the good Silver Wrath pieces for the sets that I have, and that's upgraded my armor to the point where I'm happy with it and can roll with the armor and decorations I got, and that's about where I've left it for Monster Hunter. The reason I'm so tired today, by the way, is because I had to interfere with people trying to move furniture and try and get it all moved in about the span of 2 hours, as much as I could.
People with busted rotator cuffs who should not be attempting to move anything.
Yeah. So I've been very tired this show, getting back from that. So that's why you've only heard me talk about the stuff that I know about with Fern and my week, because I'm just very, very physically exhausted right now.
Well, you also said you were going to rant about Audible.
Right.
Yeah,
So
what's going on there?
This goes hand in hand with something else I was doing. So because I didn't want to play Monster Hunter, I needed something else to do with my hands while I just wanted to sit and listen to audiobooks. And I figured, oh, well, I've got Devil May Cry 3 downloaded on my Switch, and it's got that new style switching thing. I'll play through that while I'm listening to some audiobooks or something, and I'll see what's up. So I go to boot up Audible. I go to reinstall the Audible app on this PC because I hadn't installed it yet. It's not in the Microsoft Store anymore. Okay. Right. Windows 10 Microsoft Audible app doesn't exist anymore on the Microsoft Store. Okay, let's go to Audible's website and see where it is.
Oh, I think I
Go to their website. App doesn't exist. Then I go digging further in their website. They have an app of something, but it just lets you download the raw files. It doesn't let you listen to them. And it doesn't keep any of the settings or chapter positions that you had set for the other one, for the old app. Okay. So you still need an external player. Okay. What type of file do they download it in? DRM heavy AAX format. Can't be read by anything really. You can set it up. iTunes can read it, but I don't want to use iTunes. So go download Music Bee and install every plugin in the world. Kind of works, but it's really janky. And then have to go download like 3 Audible converters to figure out which one actually is the current one that works with the current format, and convert all my audiobooks to MB4 and MP3.
Yeah.
And then load those up with chapter data into Music Bee as individual playlists, and sequester those files and folders somewhere on my PC where they're not going to move in the dump folder. And that's about the only thing I could do. And then, yeah, it turns out the reason for this is the Audible app just isn't supported on PC anymore for Windows 10. They have no replacement for it, and they're not working on any replacement for it. It just doesn't exist anymore. They've fully removed it from the Microsoft Store, and if you have it on Windows 10, it can no longer scan your library on audible.com and update the download list. Furthermore, they have revised their terms of service so that they can remove any product from the store for download without any reason, and this happened to a few Larry Correia's short stories that I owned. And sorry, that's a no. That is about as many deal breakers as you could put together in one update, Audible. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So I fully unsubbed after that, dumped all of my remaining credits on random pieces of series that I had missed a few short stories and a few stray books in, so I could just download them and convert them, and then unsubbed and fully wrote Audible the biggest nasty and angriest nastygram I've written the company in a long time because of this garbage. And sent it to him, and I have no plans of ever using Audible ever again after that.
Fair enough.
It'll be Yarhar Fiddle-Dee-Dee all the way, and if I really like the book, then I'll buy the book physically to add it to my collection.
Yeah, I've never actually...
is a service problem.jpg.
Yeah, I've never actually used Audible on PC, because I've been with Audible since the early days, and in those days it was iTunes or nothing for Audible books.
Yeah, and they're back to that.
Yeah. So, yeah, there is another thing which has popped up, actually, particularly for Android users, is that now, if you try and order books or credits through their website, or through their app, you will now attract an additional fee. And that is because Google now charges additional fees for in-app purchases done through a third party's app. They just want another chunk of money out of it.
No, that was because they were trying to marginalise Epic.
Oh yeah, I'm almost guarantee you that this is a result of the Epic court case. So now what you need to do is, if you want to buy books on Audible, you don't ever buy straight books on Audible, by the way. You always buy credits and then the books. But you go to the website and buy your credits there, because that way you don't end up with the extra markup.
Yeah.
And then you can buy them in the app.
So, yeah. And the other half of the deal breaker, that they have changed their terms of service to just remove anything from availability to download whenever they want.
If it's good enough for Apple, that's good enough for them.
Yeah, this is a standard looming practice, but the fact that they amended their terms of service and then immediately began applying it, no.
Yeah.
It means that they've figured out a way to turn that into money.
Yeah, I'm just not playing that game. Like, sorry.
Mm.
And I noticed it immediately. Several of Larry Correia's short stories for like the Grim Noir Chronicles and stuff were just not available for download, and they're still in my library as purchased, but you can't download them.
That's really weird. So yeah,
Yep.
But
So
kind of obvious. in that
beware.
sense.
I would encourage all listeners to find another method of procuring their audiobooks instead of Audible. Audible has now gone too far and has reached a point where you just can't trust them anymore. And if you do PC listening like I do, while I'm grinding in a video game or I'm playing through something that I don't really need the sound on for or the sound very loud on, then you can't do that anymore. Their solution on the help page is go install the Audible app on your phone and listen to it.
Yeah, which is not helpful.
Yeah, I have not been this rude and angry at a company in my nastygram to them in a long time. This really, really pissed me off.
Yeah. Mind you, had you asked me last year if you should be listening to Audible on your PC, I would have told you no, because the Audible PC experience has been always hot liquid shit.
Yeah, their app was terrible, but it was functional.
Yeah, now it's just not even that.
And they still insist on that stupid DRM. So you have to use iTunes or Audible, neither of which were particularly great options. But the Audible app was at least kept track of your library automatically.
Mm.
And you could tell it where to dump your files, and that's all I really needed it for. And it could read the AAX files without having to do any kind of conversions. So the program I wound up using to just get the files out of my library on Digital Library and turn them into actual readable files was called Libation. And go dig it up on Reddit, because I'm technically in gray water recommending it to you. Yeah. So if you want to go find it, go dig it up on Reddit yourself. And it's the one that wound up working for me in the end.
Or you can just DM Ari, I guess.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, if you really want to know, just message me on my Discord and I'll tell you.
We just can't advertise for them is all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah. But up until now, I've always had very good experiences with Audible, except for the recommendations that pop up at the end of a book.
Oh, it's always terrible.
It's always terrible. It's usually like, here is our featured items, which are always some woke garbage, and here's our suggestions for you, which is like one or two good things, and then the rest is hot garbage. It's never like, you are listening to a series. Here is the next book in this series. Add that. Why is that not there?
Because people are dumb that make these apps and don't understand how humans function.
They always make me go looking for the next book.
Yeah, you got to pull up the Wikipedia page for that series and see what the next book in the thing is, and then go to the series page on Audible and scroll through the list, because half the time they're out of order, and you got to find the right one. Yeah, it's a mess.
All it would need to be is like, tap here to buy the next book in the series and add it to your play queue. That's all it needs to be. Do it automatically.
Yeah.
But no.
So I've actually only been listening to The Patriots' History of the United States again, instead of any actual series, because I just don't have any series that are really jumping out at me right now, and I don't particularly feel like going digging, especially since I can't use my free Audible credits to try out series.
Yeah.
Anymore, because downloading from Audible now would involve a very obnoxious process of downloading the file, converting it, and then moving it into a playlist.
Bleh.
And it takes forever to do this for every single book you own. So I didn't particularly feel like being adventurous. And the game I was playing, though, was Devil May Cry 3. And so to pivot from my Audible rage for a bit, Devil May Cry 3 on Switch, the new feature works great. Two problems with it. Number one, Freestyle also forces you to be able to have all of Dante's weapons equipped at once, which Devil May Cry 3 is just not built for. Its combo system and its combat system is made so that you have two weapons at a time, and being able to switch freely between them means the weapons are supposed to flow naturally into another weapon. But having to switch multiple times confuses the system, and will sometimes, with the exact same timing, make you attack with the weapons that you're trying to quickly cycle through to get to the weapon you actually want to switch to. Because you can only cycle in one direction. And you have 5 ranged weapons and 5 melee weapons. So Don't know why they didn't let you keep the old weapon equip system and just leave it at that, and they force you to use the weird swappy thingy, but they do. And otherwise, the style system switcher, where you can get your Devil May Cry 4 and 5 style switching in real time going, works great, except for the part where when you are playing Devil May Cry, and you play Dante and you start getting really good with him, or not really good, but just you're playing him, and actually know what you're doing instead of just doing stuff that's efficient.
Instead of being Gura.
Yeah, instead of being Gura, and you actually are trying to learn him and figure him out and do better with him. You'll find yourself naturally gravitating towards a claw grip that I didn't even catch myself doing until later, because you have to have a finger on the D-pad to quickly switch styles, but you still need to move. So you'll go into a claw grip on your controller, and this works great for the PS4 and PlayStation style controllers. Claw grip is fairly natural to find yourself leaning into over time. On the Switch Pro controller, you cannot claw grip this thing. It's just not going to happen. Claw grip is where you adjust your hand, for those that don't know, on your left hand on the controller, so that your index finger is not on the triggers, but is instead on the D-pad face buttons. And your middle finger or your ring finger are what handles the triggers on that side. It's not something that a lot of games require, but for Dante and Devil May Cry 4 and 5, it becomes a necessity for higher level play, and whether you want to or not, you'll find yourself doing it. You cannot claw grip the Switch controller. The Switch Pro controller. The D-pad is both. Yeah, we have unaligned sticks, so the left stick is higher than the right stick. The D-pad is jank, and the D-pad is below the stick. And I'm here to tell you, navigating the D-pad with your thumb and using your index finger to move the stick is incredibly uncomfortable. So do not do that.
Yeah.
Don't even attempt to do that. And it's unfortunate because this, and I imagine the Joy-Cons are somehow even worse.
Oh, they
because
are.
of how bad it is and how unresponsive those things can be sometimes.
How square they are.
Yeah. So while I think the feature is fairly well implemented, except for the weapon switching being forced on you, I do not, in any way, shape, or form, recommend getting this game if you want to seriously play it. If you're going to play at any level of play above somebody that casually plays the occasional Devil May Cry game and would like to rebuy the game to play through it again with this new feature, cool, go for it. If you're anything above that and actually know how Dante works and want to try out some combos and stuff, don't touch it. It does not work. Go get the mod for the PC version. If you cannot claw grip, you cannot play Dante.
That's worrying. But yeah, okay.
So yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, I'm not very far through it yet, but I have begun the playthrough through it, and I don't know how long I'll stick with it. I might finish the current playthrough I'm on, and then just go re-download the game or go play through 4 on my PC or something, where things are just more interesting if I really want that type of experience. But it was just something to do because I felt like I needed something to do. Meanwhile, during the show, I've gathered like 8,000 experience worth in gathering nodes from the island, just running around mashing my macro.
Jeez, that's kind of nuts.
I'm rank 8 now. I just saw Sanctuary rank up.
Wow.
So yeah, I did find 2 days where I had time to go through the new patch's story stuff. It's not that long, but you do a whole lot of running around in it. So and it seems like it is the main story at least is very good to do all in one sitting. I've not done the raids yet. I'm waiting for these two to unlock the raids, and we'll do them at some point so that we can all talk about them, because I'm just not in a big hurry to get gear.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, but I would like to do them sooner than later to make it a project that can be worked on. But I would like to wait on you guys at the same time so that we have the ability to talk about it as on the show. So don't have much to say about the Final Fantasy stuff aside from the island, because the island's very useful for just I need something to do with my hands that requires negative brain work and I can make progress on.
All right.
But yeah, I think that's everything for my week.
There's also probably the biggest piece of news, honestly, this week is the Final Fantasy patch.
Yeah, we've covered it. I think everything about it in detail of that as we can.
There's still more content to come out, like the next bit of the Hildebrand quest and the relic weapons that go with it.
Yeah, the post the 3-week post patch mini patch that unlocks some of the difficulty stuff, and the 2.5 that'll have the Hildebrand stuff and the other stuff. I'm not sure when that's currently estimated to come out, but that'll be our relic weapons for this expansion, and it'll be more Hildebrand quest tied into the same thing. And there's a whole mess of other features I'm forgetting off the top of my head that'll be in that patch as well.
Yeah.
I hope you're prepared to babysit Fern and I through the ridiculously difficult Savage dungeons.
Oh, I'll have to.
Because you're probably going to go absolutely nuts on them and know them back to front by the time Fern and I have time to try them for the first time.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about them yet because I haven't, the past 2 weeks I haven't had time to do anything that requires brain work because I've just been too brain drained.
It happens.
Yeah, work has just been killing me.
Yeah, I've got rough times coming up myself, and I don't know what I'm going to do about it. I'm so far behind on things at work that I'm just not thinking about it, because even if I do think about it, there's not time for me to rectify the situation. Unless I start working like 16-hour shifts every day, I'm never going to get caught up, so I'm just not going to bother. I'll let manpower become a problem for the people that can solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just a mess right now.
All right.
So yeah.
We do have a couple of other little bits and pieces of news.
Did anybody check the email?
I'll do that quickly while we look. That's it.
So I forget to check. No, we have an advertisement from Match.com somehow.
Yeah, we've been getting increasing amounts of spam in there.
Is that one of them dating apps or something?
Yes.
Yeah, but because it's coming to us, no, it's actually Match.com with proper URLs. Usually when we get an advertisement, I assume it's somebody spoofing the thing because we don't use this email to sign up for anything.
Does that mean that one of us has signed up for Match.com at some point?
Or someone's actually got
or at least given
account.
the email address to somebody who gave it to Match.com, I guess.
Yeah, I would wager it's the second one.
Yeah. Just...
I don't think I've ever been drunk enough to sign up for a dating app.
No.
Yeah, if I want to go get in a relationship again, I'll go roll my dice with real people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that those apps are just catfishing, like from top to bottom.
They do work sometimes, but yeah, there's a lot.
I mean, there are a lot of things that you could say do work sometimes that are just in the main a terrible idea.
Yes.
Like, I don't actually... No, I know that's not true. I know of one person who got an actual relationship out of those apps, and I know many people who have got nothing but disappointment.
Hmm.
I also know many people that use it as a quick one-night hookup app, regardless of what type of app.
I'm pretty
it
sure
is.
that is the majority of people using them, no matter what type of app it is.
Looking at you,
Like,
Tinder.
they just use... Well, not even necessarily that. Not even necessarily the worst among them. It's just...
Yeah.
The thing is that on those apps where that isn't where one night stands isn't the objective, there's no actual reason for people who are only looking for a one night stand not to use them as hunting grounds anyway.
Hmm.
Because what have they got to lose? They're never going to see that person again. It's not going to hurt them.
Yep.
Well, if you're a guy now, the risk is quite a bit higher, so I would be careful.
Yeah, if you're a guy, definitely be careful.
Well, I think that the people who spend a lot of time doing this type of thing are probably have ways and means of avoiding responsibility for anything.
But yeah, it's not to say that the better of the dating apps, dating sites, I'm going to say, not the apps, don't work, but just be very mindful as to what you're getting into.
I in general
think that-
recommend against them.
I think that Serathis would just denounce any kind of recommendation of these things.
Yeah.
He seems to have an axe to grind.
What was it that Callum said to Sargon that one time on his podcast? When they were brought up dating apps, he's like, "Yeah, I want a girlfriend, not a whore."
Oh
Yeah,
my.
that's basically the long and short of it, really. I mean, it's not like there aren't like genuine people there, but how are you going to find them? How many people are you planning to wade through?
Yeah, just try your luck with real people and go. You get to at least get a preview of their personality when you first start talking to them.
I hate people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why most people that I know of have been very disappointed by them is that it is evident the first time you meet them how many lies they told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest traps that tends to catch people is they just believe what they read.
Why would you? Have you never used the internet before?
A surprising amount of people still don't believe people will just lie to them to tell a better story on Facebook.
Yeah.
Not even for a game. They'll just lie to you because.
Who would do that? Who would just lie on the internet?
Hi, welcome to the internet.
Yeah, it's so many people just don't get that. It blows my brain.
Yeah. Anywho,
Anyway, let's talk about something a bit more productive.
let's talk about some video game. I want to talk about the big video game conference that happened this last week, but I can't.
I kept putting off looking into it,
Yeah,
so I don't know what happened.
nothing honestly really grabbed my attention.
Were there at least some cool new trailers or something?
Yeah, and there's some hot garbage as well.
I mean, there's literally only 2 games I'm looking forward to in existence right now, so that's Fate Extra Record and Warhammer Darktide.
Vermintide in space.
We really must settle down and play that one of these days.
We must. I did get really disappointed because we got a new trailer for another brand new Tales of the Borderlands. I love Tales of the Borderlands. The first one was fantastic. This, however,
I didn't even look at it because I expected it to be woke garbage.
oh, it is. So you've got 3 main protagonists this time. I think Reese actually makes a very brief appearance, but we still haven't found out what happened to Fiona at the end of the first Tales. Which I think everyone wants to know
Really?
where she ended up. Yeah, she just kind of fell into the plot hole and that was it.
Did she? I don't remember the ending.
I thought the
That
ending
doesn't
was
sound
that they broke open the vault and went off on an adventure, basically.
Yeah, basically.
That's what I remember.
So
I don't remember a reason.
But
Reese
they all
would
went
be
together.
Yeah.
yeah, and so you've got Reese and Vaughn have turned up again, but Fiona and Sasha have not.
Well, they're probably running a scam somewhere.
Probably. So, we've got our 3 new protagonists. The first is another new corpo type, and by her dress, I'm gonna guess she's with Malawan. She's okay. She looks like she's just kind of getting stuck into some sort of nonsense adventure and is in way over her head. That's fine. The second is an acerbic frozen yogurt shop attendant who looks like she stepped right out of a 60s diner with the attitude to match. But she's in a wheelchair, which may or may not be a result of what happened in Borderlands 3. Apparently she was in that as well and something horrible happened to her.
No, it's a result of identity politics. That's what it's a result of.
Probably. But the third character, I can put up with those 2. Like, the first character is a fish out of water, and that's fine. The second character is horrendously bitter. That she's going to be fun to watch. Great. The third character is a skater boy.
Why?
Exactly. And he kind of overshadows the entirety of the trailer with his terrible, terrible dialogue.
Skaters haven't been a thing since like
Ever.
the 90s.
Yeah.
There were tons of them at high school.
Yeah, I remember them being around in middle school and high school. I don't remember them after that.
I went to high school in 2000 through 2004.
Yeah.
So-
And they're an embarrassment then as well.
Yeah, they were as well. Like I don't know if it was different in like the 90s or the 80s or whatever, but the skater demographic at high school, the skater clique, they were not viewed as cool. They were viewed as cringe.
Yes, and they've always
Yeah.
been cringe.
They
Well, I
were
mean, they've
very
always been cringe. That's not what I'm talking about. Though.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the fact that they were never considered aspirational, even when like the Tony Hawk games were at the peak of their popularity, or maybe because the Tony Hawk games were at the peak of their popularity. the actual people who tried to skate were viewed as cringe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a difference in high school between the skater clique that would obsess over tiny things with their skateboards and had this obnoxious, dumb lingo they would use, and the people that just had a skateboard, because everybody had a skateboard laying around. They were super cheap.
Yeah.
And people would sometimes mess around with them, but nobody. These are the people that would go to the rink and talk about how cool their skateboard is and all the tricks they can do.
Yeah.
They just talk at the rink. They don't actually do any tricks.
Yeah, they'll tell you about all the tricks they can do, but you never see them do it because you never go to the rink to watch them, because these people were all incredibly obnoxious and all dumb as a bag of rocks.
And dressed weird.
They couldn't pull their pants up.
Could not pull their pants up.
Yeah, there's another word for some of them that I can't say.
Yeah, best you don't.
There are some bridges we don't want to cross just yet.
It starts with a W.
So, yeah. I'm not sure exactly... Oh. Thought I had him that time. Never mind. I'm doing Swallow's Compass at the same time and just got taken out by the second boss because I forget how he actually worked. But yeah, so that's that. I'm very disappointed that I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I considered Borderlands to be a dead letter after the pre-sequel. Like, I liked Tales from the Borderlands a lot, I really did, but I didn't trust the way they felt the sort of the tone and aesthetic of the game should keep moving. As of pre-sequel and especially 3, it was not indicative of them understanding where their limits were, what constituted good writing, what parts of Borderlands were funny and what parts were cringe. Like, it was already evident by Borderlands 2 that they had lost their grip on that, because Borderlands 1 was kind of restrained, at least.
Yep.
Borderlands 2, they really let the pen run wild in the script writing, and they had at least as many misses as they had hits with their humour.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, they concluded that it was their successful humour was a product of them being incredible at their jobs. They didn't look at what they might have done wrong. And then ended up just capitalizing on all the sort of the advancement of terrible humor, where like the ultimate destination of Borderlands humor is Rick and Morty.
Yeah, that's the route they've gone down. Not the opposite way, where everything is, basically everything is terrible and let's make fun of it. It's lol random.
Yeah, like this is sort of like, I think of it, and maybe it's a bit unfair to them, but I think of it as being MCU humor to a certain extent. Like that provides, it's not the same type of humor as the Rick and Morty humor, but I feel like it's the driving dynamo behind that incessant need to bolt a witticism onto everything.
Yeah.
And the thing with comedy is that it's supposed to rely on timing, not just flapping your gums constantly.
Yeah. You can have a character that is the kind of the motor mouth and get a bit of comedy out of them, but you also need to know when to shut that character up.
Well, yeah, the thing is that the motor mouth character is funny because he's usually forced to shut up at some point.
Yeah, thus Claptrap.
That's an important part of that gag. The thing is that they didn't seem to notice that, by and large, people didn't find Claptrap charming. They found him annoying.
Yes. But,
like, just because people love to hate him doesn't mean they want to hear him talk more.
Yeah, people just want to see Claptrap abused and then disappear. I think he actually worked his best in Tales of the Borderlands. He was there for a one-off gag at the end of the game, and that was it.
Yeah, but it's. I think that I could see that vector that they were heading along prior to them actually getting to the destination, as far as the humor was concerned. Like I didn't know of Rick and Morty at the time. It probably didn't exist. I don't know. But I could tell that was the direction that they were headed with the humor. Like, they were on that trajectory, and it was going to get to the point where they were just constantly suffering from unfunny verbal diarrhea and were just relying on everybody sort of like a consensus, like an audience consensus that it was funny, and the reason that it was funny was that everybody knew that it was, which is how I feel Rick and Morty comes by its humour. Is that it's got this set of fans that have all decided that it's funny and agreed with each other that it's funny, therefore that makes it funny regardless of the content.
It's not funny.
It's not funny.
Yeah. On the other side of the coin, then, though, Borderlands 2 had a lot of going for it in terms of serious storytelling as well.
Yeah, and if they had focused on capitalizing on that instead of, you know, just leaning into absurd, overwrought humor and identity politics, because it had already started to verge in at this point. You can tell if you listen to the incidental dialogue clearly that there is not a single heterosexual relationship other than Roland and Lilith in the entirety of. Yeah, and he dies. They kill off half of the only heterosexual pairing in the entire game because everybody else in that game is gay. I mean, Moxie's sort of like not really that fussy, I don't think. I presume by extension Marcus must be straight, but everybody else in the game is gay. I don't know why. Just because Birch is writing it, I presume.
Yeah. At least in Borderlands 2 it wasn't overwhelming, it was kind of just there in the background. You could ignore it.
It was mostly background, yeah, although it would be in every piece of background. It wasn't the main plot, thank the heavens.
Yeah, but it also wasn't relevant to the plot, so why was it really there?
Well,
anyway,
yeah, the issue is that this was a distracting concern of theirs, and because it didn't have anything to do with good writing, it was something that they wanted to write, irrespective of what the audience wanted.
And then they doubled down on it for like pre-sequel, where you got a key point of the relationship is that Athena is gay, or a key point of the story is Athena is gay.
Yeah, which nobody honestly gave a crap about.
Like, yeah, people liked her when she was being a badass, and they don't actually care about her predilections. That's not important or interesting in any way.
It was more jarring, actually. You'd see her being an absolute hard-ass bad bitch one moment, and then suddenly she's all soft and tender, and it's kind of, what?
So that's not actually a thing that real people do, I'm sorry. When somebody who is a hard-ass has a soft spot for someone, you usually can't tell. You have to sort of draw that inference from a series of other behaviours of theirs.
Yeah. So, yeah, the point is that Borderlands 2 was great. It did have its faults, yes, but they have not been able to capitalise on what they had. Tales of the Borderlands did, as well, though I'm not sure how much of that was because of the Borderlands writers as opposed to the Telltale writers, but...
I'm positive it's because Birch was not at the head of the writing team, and it was made by almost an entirely different group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they very much used it as a setting. And like it's got while they are still, you know, they're following the modern writing rules for female characters where they're not allowed to have, you know, bad
they
things
have to be men.
them.
They have to be strong female protagonists here.
Well, you see, the thing is that they managed to avoid it in Tales from the Borderlands because Fiona is very distinctly feminine, and so is her sister.
Yet they're still strong characters.
Yeah, they're still strong characters. They're still hard asses living in a difficult world, but they don't sacrifice their femininity for it entirely the way those types of characters are written now. So, but I feel like they were on the edge. That was sort of like the last time that story could be written before the culture would no longer accept it.
Yeah, where they're just good characters.
And by culture, I don't mean the audience. I mean the sort of the incestuous circle of people who develop video games.
Yeah, it's actually a common thing now in the Borderlands thing. Is nobody cares. They saw all these new characters. Nobody cares, but they're all asking, "Where's Fiona? Where's Sasha?"
Because those are the characters people liked.
Yes.
They don't care about these new random people.
So, yeah, I'm just nah. I could use the term jump the shark in the show notes, and that's probably the best phrase for it. Like, they had their big crowning moments of Borderlands 2 and Tales from the Borderlands. And it's been all downhill since then.
You say that, but it is Borderlands, so that could mean that they literally included the Fonz as a character.
I think they did have an actual shark being jumped, and then it exploded.
Oh right, I think that was a like an achievement or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. So yeah,
You're not supposed to take it seriously. You're not supposed to actually jump the shark. What are you doing?
yeah.
But
Honestly though, if a game of the caliber of Borderlands 3 came out before 2, I don't think it would have mattered too much. People would have been kind of bummed a bit, I suppose, but the franchise would still be at a high point.
I don't know. I think that Borderlands 3 exists in a way that it's trying to ape something that previously exists.
Yeah.
Like Borderlands 3 is very much just trying to do Borderlands 2 again and recapture the hype. I don't think that they really move the series forward in any particular way.
They're trying to recapture the wrong bits.
They kowtowed censorship and just brought all the gay over.
Well, I'm not talking about that though. I'm saying like it's not really reasonable to say, oh well, if this had occurred in place of Borderlands 2, then people might have been a bit bummed about it, but that wouldn't have harmed the franchise. Well, that's because it wasn't in that scenario. It's not a rehash because the previous one didn't exist.
Yeah, that's true. But more the point that nobody gives a toss about those two new villains. I have not mentioned anyone actually mention them by name.
They're not. They don't have anything that's theirs. They're just rather cringe internet personalities.
Yeah, that's the big part of the problem.
Handsome Jack was the sort of villain that didn't really exist in any other video game. Like there wasn't really a Handsome Jack in any other story that was around at the time. He was a particular type of jackass that you just wanted to put in his place, and saving the world or Pandora or becoming rich from the vault. Yeah, those are all things you kind of want to do, but you also want to smack the smug off Jack's face.
He was a unique type of big evil corpo man that didn't really exist before or since. Well, there might have been some sense. I don't know. I haven't kept up with new media that much, but definitely when he came out, he was such a unique spin on the evil corpo crazy man that's only out for his own interests.
Yeah, because I mean, before that, his position was basically occupied by, like, I don't know, the likes of Kingpin from Batman or whatever. Like he was the same sort of person who is a bad guy by means of the fact that he's going to do anything to get money. But the problem with Borderlands 3 is it's trying to be relevant because people can recognize like the streamer archetype, and basically the bad guys are streamers, right?
Yeah, they are literally streamers.
They're trying to play off of our audience recognition of this particular trope or whatever, except that people won't appreciate that as a narrative point unless they actually can see those characters as something other than just that archetype. Because you get to know the sort of person Handsome Jack is through his repeated taunting of you and the way he manipulates you and the way things do and don't go his way and so on and so forth. Whereas the writing for the villains in Borderlands 3 extends about as far as, oh, these guys are streamers and they're bad and they do bad things.
Yeah. Alright, so on that note, another game that's getting panned, by the way, the new Saints Row came out.
Yeah, and it mostly seems to be generating cringe compilations and bug compilations.
Yeah, the reception has not been kind.
Yeah, the reception for Saints Row 4 was bad enough as it was, but they've managed to plumb new depths.
Yeah, like Saints Row 4 was still a lot of fun, and it was more of the same that you got at Saints Row 3, just cranked up maybe a bit too far.
Yeah, it was the sort of the same exercises with Borderlands where they just they don't recognize what made the previous one funny, and then they take the parts that were bad a step too far.
Yeah, but it was also like kind of supposed to be the complete irrelevant capstone of a series, so a lot of people kind of forgave it.
Yeah, like they could have like literally made it a bridge too far, the subtitle.
Yeah,
because that's what they were trying to do. They were just trying to see if they could go a little bit too far.
Yeah, it's all hail Johnny Gat, the game.
Yeah, it wasn't received that well by players. It reviewed relatively well, but we're talking about a game that probably got like a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 on Metacritic from the players.
Yeah, it was okay, but not great.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't quite the cohesive experience that the previous couple were. But the new one, the new one is a deliberate attempt to disown the people who like the previous ones.
Yeah.
Saints Row fans don't have to be your audience for the new Saints Row game, type of thing.
Actually, if you're a Saints Row fan, get out.
Yeah, because the audience for this new game is the people that wrote the script, and nobody else. Like, this is clearly a case of the people creating the game creating it for themselves and assuming that everybody is just like them.
Yeah, and they want to use a
California insular mindset.
They want to use an existing franchise to do it.
Yeah, the sorts of things I've heard about it are pretty appallingly slack as well, and I've read of people saying that they got the impression the game didn't want them to do any crimes because they unlock heist mode or whatever, and they do the early part of the mission where they go and they take photographs of the cameras and stuff, and then their job after that is to sit in the getaway car and wait for their team to do the heist and then drive them away.
What? What's the point of that?
Yeah. But I mean, it's just the whole thing smacks of they don't know what they're doing and they don't know how to make a Saints Row game.
Yeah.
And everything in the dialogue is apparently unspeakably cringe. And the characters are unspeakably cringe. And basically every conceivable expert of it is unspeakably cringe. And there's not really any reason to play it, whether you're a Saints Row fan or not. There's just no redeeming factors. You might as well just play something else.
Yeah. Go load some mods into GTA 5 and go on a murder spree as the Swedish Chef or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing that Saints Row has always had to overcome the existence of GTA.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key job that it has. And whether or not it can do that, whether or not it can carve out its own identity that people resonate with, is what will determine its success. Yeah. And they don't seem to recognise that anymore, because the previous ones clearly did. It was designed to be Grand Theft Auto, except everything was just, given a layer of absurd icing.
Yeah,
on top.
Especially at the time when you had Saints Row 4 had just come out, and this was... Oh, sorry, no. GTA 4 had just come out, which was very serious and brown.
Yeah, it was a very much darker game.
Yes. And on the other hand, then you had Saints Row, I believe that was 3 at the time, which was completely and utterly bonkers.
Where a pimp whose voice goes through an auto-tuner will pull you in a cart down the road with a horsetail butt plug on.
Yeah. That's the difference. And that's what made Saints Row work.
And all this stuff relies on being deliberately brazen and offensive, and that's just not okay in this day and age.
You can't be brazen and offensive.
Yeah, like the sorts of things that they think are like peak zingers in that culture that produce these scripts now are people making sort of references that are references to the real world that will be heavily dated to the current cultural context and that don't resonate at all with anybody outside of the culture that are actually making the game itself. Like, it's not designed to be like the thing with this sort of like bawdy toilet humor that Saints Row historically has specialized in is that everybody was 12 once.
Yes.
The thing is that not everybody is an extreme left-wing progressive libtard. Like, most people don't even necessarily have that phase in their life. So how then are you going to relate to your audience? Because you're not appealing to something that everybody has in their experience. Because what they are saying is that, oh, you have to have our type of humor, and it's not a universal type of humor. It's a very specific sort of post-ironic type of humor that isn't really humor because actually being humorous is now passé, and you can't make jokes that anybody might possibly find offensive anymore either, unless they're the right kind of people, which is to say, the people that might actually play the game. Like, the people making the game are the sort of people who would have nodded along while reading the "Gamers Don't Have to Be Your Audience, Gamers Are Dead" articles. They don't understand their audience, and they've been given enough money that they don't think they need to.
Yeah, it's a mess with these people. They live in such an insular community and culture that they can't fathom that the way the people outside of it think, especially the people, like, just keep it in the US for a minute. You got the people in California that are making this game, or in whatever woke mega city in whatever state they're in. The people out in the sticks, out in flyover country, they have no idea how these people think. Like, they have no way to relate to them as human beings because they operate on such a insular paradigm compared to everybody else that they can't even comprehend what some people like us would find funny.
Well, not only that though, but they actively have contempt for the sort of thinking that those people have. Like, they actually have contempt for anybody who doesn't think exactly like them. So they're not going to attempt to broaden their appeal whatsoever. They're going to have a very narrow set of very specific types of jokes and humour, or what they are going to consider jokes and humour. And they're not going to give any regard whatsoever to the fact that there might be people who find different things funny.
Here's a universal rule. Farts. Farts are always funny.
Yeah, and that's why what I was saying about toilet humour is that there is no culture in the world that doesn't have toilet humour, except possibly the modern woke culture.
Oh, they still laugh at a fart joke when no one's looking.
Well, they laugh at it when no one's looking.
Yeah.
And they know that they can't be caught. And they go through life looking over their shoulder because they're afraid of being caught.
Yeah, we're talking about a group of people here that they base their entire life about the public appearance and the people around them. They can't have any thoughts of their own. So what they do on their own, doesn't effectively happen in their brains. And it's not part of their culture because culture requires more than one person.
Yeah, but at any rate, the upshot of all of this is that the humour in the game sucks and people cringe at it rather than finding it funny, and most of the laughs people have gotten out of the new Saints Row is the ridiculous bugs that it manifests, because it's a pile of garbage.
Yeah.
I do love me some good bug compilations, though.
Oh, I love a good bug compilation.
Yeah, but this is the sort of thing that is accidental humour. It's not actually,
and it
not
comes
actually
at
intentional.
It comes at the expense of what could have been a good product.
I think that it was doomed from the outset.
Yeah.
Like,
in this case, it is.
Because of, like, it's the same as with Borderlands in my mind. Like, by the time Saints Row 3 happened, relative to Saints Row 2, and then I haven't actually played Saints Row 4, even though I own it, you can see the trajectory that they're on with their aesthetics and their writing and what they think is important as far as creating a game environment goes. That trajectory can't end in a good place if they continue it any further, and that's why 4 ends the story.
Yes.
But they did try and continue it with this reboot. They did try and perpetuate that vector, but move it the next logical step along that line in the culture to where now you've got this, you've got a game which is completely deracinated from where it was originally, and you're trying to move it another notch along in cultural development, except only taking it along that soul path which is recognisable to the ultra woke people making it. And you can tell that by what they think players will find appealing to, say, play as or play alongside. It's the same as when, I think it was Baldur's Gate, the remake, that I'm not 100% sure about this, that the creators of the game, without telling anybody, were collecting metadata on all of the player characters, the custom player characters people designed and played as.
Mm.
And they collected and collected and collected and collected and collected. And then they used that data to create a composite character based on the most common selections, and it was generic human male. like the most generic looking player character you could possibly imagine. Just like big dude.
Because what else did you honestly expect?
And they announced the fact that they'd been collecting all this data without referring to the fact that they had in fact been collecting all this data. They just said that we've looked at all the most common choices, and why did you people do this when you had all these other options available? You did it wrong.
Yeah.
That was their response, is that when left to your own devices, you'll play the game wrong, so we need to limit your choices in future.
How dare the community at large? Probably the second most popular one was Pretty Lady. Generically Pretty Lady.
Yeah, probably. Especially when
I guarantee you those were the top two. And these people can't stand that. You mean you didn't want a mohawk with rainbow hair? What's wrong with you?
Well, especially when you have such a wide pool of data and you try and draw an average from it, of course you're going to get the grey paste in the middle.
Yeah, well, the point that I'm getting at here is that this is the new developer culture. They think that there is a right way and a wrong way to view the product, and that if you are not doing things exactly the way they want, then you're doing it wrong. And this is the same attitude that destroyed World of Warcraft, right? It's like, if you aren't doing things exactly the way Blizzard commands, if you aren't enjoying all the things Blizzard has put there, labelled, this is for your enjoyment, that means there's something wrong with you, the person, not with the product. The product isn't bad. We did everything right according to the metrics. Or according to our internal company culture.
This is what my game design class that Ego Raptors videos are featured in told me was good. Well, how do you not like it?
And I think that's really what's going on with this Saints Row as well. Like, they have decided these are the right jokes to find funny. These are the right sorts of characters that you're supposed to like. And if you don't like these characters and enjoy these jokes, it's because there's some defect in you as a customer. And if you don't like it, we don't want you to be our audience. And you're hearing this type of logic coming out of creators of movies and video games more and more often lately. Is like, don't buy our product if you don't like it. Well, the thing is that people already don't buy your product if they don't like it.
It's actually getting a bit worse than that, because now they're preempting everything. They've got the stock, if you don't like it, you're a bigot, already lined up and ready to go, even before the reviews are out.
Yeah, that's the very first port of call, is to accuse the people who don't like their product of bigotry. They've got that. They've hired somebody at their token media reviewer outlet to write that opinion column, and then they press the send button when they get the call from the big guy. Like, it's just a totally artificial system that's entirely calibrated purely to preserve the creator's ego and for nothing else. Doesn't serve any other purpose. This is all about ego. But it's not even about pushing the message anymore. Because if you were a real ideologue who really wanted to brainwash people into following the message, then you would come up with more insidious and more careful ways to brainwash the masses, the way the people pushing CRT in schools have. So, they figured that what you actually need to do is not try and convince people who are coming out of the end of the culture. You need to convince the people going in that there is no other way to think other than CRT. So let's get the children. The people who are at the end product telling you that you're a bad person and they don't want you to participate in their product, they're just doing it to protect their ego. They are mad that you are permitted to exist in a way that meets their disapproval, and therefore they're going to abuse you for it. And they expect everybody else to line up and abuse you along with them because they are right and they are good and they are proper.
Alright. That was a rant.
But there's like a spirit behind all of this stuff. You can see it, right? Like there is a unified culture of, we are so wonderful for giving you this product. How dare you not appreciate it the way we want you to appreciate it?
They think their poop don't stink, basically. And I'm here to tell you, your poop does stink. I have to go put the pumps in.
Professional opinion. Yes, poop stinks.
In fact, yours is so bad I had to get the hazmat suit.
There you go.
Types of people. I'm not joking.
It's all that faux ethnic food they eat, you know?
It's also because they dump weird crap down their toilets.
Yeah, don't dump weird crap down your toilets, people. Toilets are for crap, not
I'm
weird.
sure at this point it's like 90% disposable surgical masks.
Ugh.
Oh yeah. Please keep doing that, though. It gums up the impellers on pumps and makes me get to sell more to the customer.
Yeah. Anywho,
It's going to be the greatest ecological disaster of our generation, isn't it?
yes.
Used surgical masks.
Speaking of terrible ideas, Sony's popped their heads up again.
But because they don't have any other kind of idea.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not true. A lot of their ideas are taken at the most superficial level, good ideas. It's just that they then jam in under them every conceivable bad way of doing it.
Yeah. In this case, they've arbitrarily taken a look at the global economy and decided to crank up the price of PS5 units everywhere except for the United States.
Yeah,
I mean, the United States economy probably has fallen further than everybody else's, but they are still richer than everybody else. So,
yeah, our crap's still considerably cheaper on average than when you do the dollar conversions. Although I'm dubious as to how accurate the dollar conversions are these days for actual wealth, especially compared to how they used to be, even just 2 years ago.
Everything's kind of up in the air at the moment.
Everything's out of whack.
That's actually a huge problem if you're trying to discuss geopolitics and global economics with people like in New Zealand, and it probably applies to other countries as well. If you say to a person, "No, they just look at what Joe Biden has done to the American economy; it's really tanked," they take that as evidence you don't know anything about the American economy, because what they're taking that as is you saying that the economy is bad in America in an absolute sense, when it's not. It's better than everybody else's, and the economy in America is not bad in an absolute sense. However, compared to where they could be based on their previous trajectory, they've probably fallen further than anybody else from the projections.
Yeah,
everybody else is already heading downhill. America was not, and then they fell off a cliff.
Yeah, under Trump we were going up. It was only getting better.
But so it's a problem of absolutes there, really. America's still hideously wealthy, and they are the place where Sony is going to be shifting titles, especially since Sony proper is not interested in marketing outside of America as a general rule. Since they moved their headquarters to Los Angeles, they've basically forgotten that the world outside America exists.
Like, Americans in general are very America-focused in their ideas of geopolitics, but
normally an American wouldn't actually sacrifice huge quantities of money just to be insular.
Yeah, but we're not stupid, unlike the Californians. The Californians, genuinely, I'm not sure that they know...
distinct from Americans.
Yeah, distinct from Americans. The Californians, I'm fairly convinced, forget that other places exist, whereas other Americans just won't think about them.
Yeah.
There are good reasons to escalate the price of the product, and they have done revisions in the past of the PS5 to try and reduce the amount of expensive metals that it consumes, and there are just limits on that. They were already in a drastic shortage situation, which is why there are not enough units to go around anywhere, and the prices on the raw materials they need to actually produce them just keeps going up. So this may be a terrible idea for expanding their install base, an absolutely awful idea for expanding their install base, and perhaps it's something that you shouldn't do once your product is out in the wild. But it's also possible that they don't actually have much of a choice at this point.
It's possible. Like, you look at their two competitors. You got, on one hand, you've got Microsoft and Nintendo. And both of them...
Nintendo's not effectively a competitor. They almost operate in different niches of the same market.
They do.
There's very little crossover between the buyers, especially because a Switch already is going to have enough exclusive content that people that want a Switch are going to get a Switch, and it's cheap enough that you can get both a Switch and whatever your main console is.
Well, you're also ignoring the fact that Nintendo has done its own minimization issues. Nintendo have dramatically reduced the size and scope of all the materials used for packaging their products over the course of the same period. And in addition to that, it is a much older console where the new version of it did not get released at a price drop.
Mm-hmm.
So basically they're doing the same thing, they're just much more skillfully hiding it. They're releasing a new iteration of an old product without cutting the price, which is effectively a price increase.
Yeah. So, yeah, my point basically being is that the two competitors have already carved out their niches. So you've got Nintendo, they've got the lower price point, they've got all the exclusives, they've got the portability. On the other hand, you've got Microsoft, who's gone whole hog on integration with PC, as well as Game Pass. What's Sony got?
They were trying to be the AAA forum. Like, they were trying to be the big cinema, effectively.
Essentially, yeah, they, and especially during the PS3 era, they were also trying to be a complement to a home theater system.
Well, they didn't do the TV Spirits thing.
No, they didn't go TV Spirits, but they more tried to, like, you incorporate the console into your system as maybe a replacement for a Blu-ray player.
Yeah, that was the big thing because Blu-ray players were so expensive back in the PS3 era. That was a big selling point for the PS3 initially.
Yep.
It was a selling point for me. The reason I got into collecting Blu-rays was because I had a PS3 and was like, well, I've got the device.
Mm-hmm. But because of streaming, that niche no longer exists. You don't need an external device because a lot of TVs
Except for me. Because
Except for you.
I don't like the quality of streaming. It is poor quality and the service is unreliable.
Yeah, if you can't get good quality, then that's perfectly acceptable.
Also, Netflix is turning a loss after loss after loss after loss after year after year after year after year, and Amazon is about to collapse their entire streaming service under the weight of their so-called Lord of the Rings series.
Oh yeah,
who even knows what the lifespan of streaming is?
If Rings of Power flops, which it will, but they're going to lie about it, Amazon is going to... That's it. That's going to be the end of Amazon streaming. But so...
It's so infuriating. That series is so infuriating. Like, they don't seem to realise that Lord of the Rings is a different beast from generic fantasy tat.
Yeah. Although people do mistakenly assign it that tag. It's not.
That is a mythos. It was written to be a mythos.
And it's the trope codifier for like every generic fantasy trait ever. Mucking around with it doesn't work.
You can't muck around with it too much.
It'd be like if you mucked around with the dictionary.
But they aren't even mucking around with it to try and make it better. They're mucking around with it to make it fit the current thing politics.
Yes, got to support the current thing. And they're also doing a prequel as well, which means they're also retconning a bunch of stuff. Instead of, doing a series set in a part of the world that hasn't really been explored. Which would have been cool.
For the record, Susan, we support current thing. I don't know what current thing is, but we definitely support it.
Whatever the current thing is.
Yeah, they've actually made the lore continuity impossible, from what I've heard in the Rings of Power.
Well, they sacked their Tolkien expert, and they're not talking to J.J. Abrams.
They made a grave error in continuity, and somebody was permitted to die in a particular battle who needs to be alive for the entirety of the Silmarillion after a certain point to take place.
It's not Celebrimbor or something like that, is it?
No, it's somebody else important who dies, but not like a central figure. But the problem is that central figure then has to save Beren's life, I think.
Right.
Or he gets killed by a werewolf. Not a werewolf, giant wolf, direwolf, evil wolf, big wolf. I can't. One of those big dogs. But that basically prevents the recovery of a Silmaril. In the entirety of that era of Middle-earth history revolves around where the Silmarils are. If you change the location of a Silmaril, the entire timeline implodes.
Yeah. Anywho, we're going off track. But yeah, I'm fully
streaming. Streaming the off track which we used to get to this particular station.
We're still also off track.
Was the effect that the existence of streaming services had on Blu-rays and how competitive advantage for Sony was lost with that.
They don't have a niche anymore.
Yeah, I think that they wanted the niche to be home console VR.
Yeah.
But they kind of kept dropping the ball on that because VR's just not great. Like, I know Ari really likes VR, but as far as most people are concerned, it's not really the world-shattering experience that's required to invest a huge amount of money in unless you're a tech geek.
Yeah, VR is great, but not everyone can use it, and it is prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, there are, in addition to the excitement barrier, there are physical barriers for VR with people that just can't handle it and aren't able to adjust. And there's the price barrier. VR is expensive. Pickle.
Pickle.
But
Sorry,
yeah,
just dying.
And even though I love VR, I think it's great, especially when you need to lose weight and get off your butt. It is not something that's going to capture the general audience. And the fact of the matter is, it does require you to get off your butt and do stuff. And if you are most people are fat, lazy people that are going to be playing video games.
I think that there's also a side issue of when you say you have to get off your butt and do stuff. I think that you're missing something that you don't appreciate as somebody who's reasonably tech savvy. Is that there's actually a lot more involved in that getting off your butt and doing something to just get set up. You have to know what you need to get, how to set it up, the bits of software you need. Like, I mean, you're talking about like side-loading bits of software and that. Do you think your average person who just has a television is going to know what he needs to do, much less how to do it?
Yeah.
Never mind that. How do you deal with cable management? This stuff isn't wireless right now. And it can't.
It's
really
going to be a long time before wireless has the bandwidth for that, I think.
Yeah, like I will take a picture of this with my phone because it's still attached to my roof, even though the headset isn't plugged into the new computer. And I'll show you what I had to do, and I guarantee you, the average customer can't do this.
Yeah, there's also
even if they
while
can,
you do that,
it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort. That's the thing. VR is not effortless. To get to the point where you can start requires you to invest a whole bunch of upfront effort.
There's also a trust issue, which currently the biggest driving force for VR in the West really is Facebook. I refuse to call them Meta.
So I posted a picture of my cable management.
Didn't they just come out and said that they were censoring people on behalf of the US government?
Yes.
Like officially on Joe Rogan's show or something?
Yeah, the lizard man was on Joe Rogan's podcast and said that, yes, Facebook does take marching orders from the FBI. If you look in my the live show chat, you'll see what I had to do for cable management, and that was not an easy setup to do. Having to bolt those things to the ceiling and find bolting points, and then cover that with a sticky solution so that it stays up there and doesn't bend and wave everywhere, and get the pulleys to work, is an involved project.
Yeah,
it's dedication. I don't think I've got that level of dedication.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to trip over your wires, that's about the only way you can do it.
Yeah, and we've barely even touched on what's involved in getting VR to work with Steam.
That's not so bad nowadays.
It's better, but
during the later use of VR stuff, the other crap you've got to do to get VR set up, Steam's nothing.
Yeah.
If as long as you've got a recognized headset, Steam will take care of the rest. They've gotten much better. But the only problem with Steam is orientation of the screen. It will sometimes have trouble talking to your VR device, and will put the start screen behind you.
Yeah, I've had that happen actually. I tried my my sister's VR system once, and that's exactly what happened.
That requires a bit of a workaround still, but everything else with Steam, it's pretty good now. So that is not an issue with it.
Yeah. So yeah, the point is VR. It's not a viable niche to be pursuing at this time.
I think that's what they were banking on, though. They thought that they could make it accessible enough that everybody would have it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they were just wrong. They were just wrong. Like, basically everybody who has put all their eggs in the VR basket in the past has turned out to be wrong. And I think that Facebook is going to be the next one to suffer that, because they have put an ungodly amount of money into developing their VR crap.
And the
looks
metaverse.
like complete garbage.
And yeah, it does. Did you see the some of those screenshots they put out?
I thought it was a joke initially.
I mean, okay, Zuckerberg looks like Zuckerberg, but he's the only one. And
I think he looks actually a little bit more human and lifelike.
Yeah, I'm about to say that was
that's alarming.
That's the most unbelievable thing, was how human Zuckerberg looked.
He lives in the uncanny valley at the best of times, so yeah. Oh, it's just why we've already got programs that do this. What is the point?
Because Facebook doesn't understand.
Because
Okay.
those programs are not under the direct control of the FBI.
Yeah, and Facebook engineers also have never been in MMO capital city and have no idea that that niche has already been filled.
Mm-hmm. Apparently they missed the 90s as well.
Yeah, but apparently the ideas are you need to walk around Walmart with a virtual shopping cart and put virtual items in your bags instead of clicking through a list.
I
And
love
this is
how
something
that footage re-emerged, because that popped up, like, what, 6 years ago now? First
yeah,
time?
something like that.
I always
Something
have
like
to
that.
do a double take though, because I think that these things are jokes usually when I see them, because it's just so obviously stupid.
I've just unlocked Hell's Kia.
No.
There you go.
The thing with marketing people is they are not human and they don't know what average humans want. It's what it seems like. The big corpo types, whenever they hire a marketing person especially, you need to immediately, if you hire that guy as a company, your job should be to disregard everything they say and take it as an example of what not to do. Because these people have no connection to humanity.
Yeah. So anyway, PlayStation, they better get their shit figured out soon.
Yeah, because they're lining up for bad times. Nobody's got the disposable income to buy a PS5 right now, as it is.
Well, you
with
can't buy
everything
one
getting more
anyway.
expensive. Even if you wouldn't be able to afford it.
Yeah.
And so raising the price is not going to help that.
Yeah, I saw my checking account go down throughout the month from what I had saved up in there.
Yeah.
And
My saving has basically disappeared. Like the amount of money going into my savings has dropped to zero basically because the petrol's so expensive.
It is.
I managed to keep a comfortable cushion, but I'm currently moving in the negative, and I'm currently working on finding cost-cutting measures to make that go back in the positive direction because I need to be saving money.
Yeah.
I
right.
don't like my total money stock going down. That doesn't feel good.
The only one
Just
that's
from
really
average
going to
use.
benefit from the PlayStation price hike is probably going to be the scalpers.
Yeah, that's probably it. I don't know what their internal business case was for this. That's why I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe they simply cannot manufacture them because they have been churning out consoles about as fast as they can procure the materials to make them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they got absolutely screwed on their last raw materials deal, they may just have a big bill they need to recoup somehow.
Possibly. Actually, very probably.
Yeah.
So,
It's like they used to in the PS4 era even. Microsoft hadn't gotten on the Game Pass wagon yet, and PS Plus was the best bang for your buck with in terms of a service you could pay for to accrue games and to get media. But now we have streaming services, and Game Pass is a thing.
yeah.
You need to compete. You need to offer a service equal to that to
So-
even have us look at it. So they don't even have that anymore.
No, they've lost that. They lost the home media center crowd. You can't fight the AAA arms race because there's always going to be someone with a bigger gun there. They let
Well,
the PSP go, and the Vita was kind of a damp squib in the West.
Well, if you play the AAA game, you're also relying on developers who are not you. And these developers have to have original ideas that are actually good, which all evidence shows current developers do not have.
Yep. So-
Original thoughts are not their forte. In fact, I would go as far as to say you can count yourself lucky if they have a single good idea in a decade. And maybe it'll be a big game release on a AAA console, and even then it's not going to be groundbreaking. The best hope you got for good, unique ideas is indie developers.
Yeah.
And they ain't exactly got the budget to make you think of Blockbuster. You have to take risks with this stuff, and people are so risk averse right now, and are only going to get more risk averse as the economy gets worse. I don't see AAA being a viable way they can go.
Actually, it's an interesting thing in bring up the indie developers as well, because I've noticed a trend that a lot of them are just going straight for self-publishing now. They're not throwing in with the big companies anymore, or they'll pick a smaller publisher and go that way.
Because it's just not worth it. I mean, what would an indie company gain when most marketing nowadays is done through word of mouth and what my favorite streamer's playing?
Yeah.
You know, you just gotta throw your product out there and try and get the right people to look at it. That has nothing to do with what a publisher can do. You don't need to make commercials. Nobody plays Among Us because of commercials. They play it because their favorite streamer played it or their friends played it.
Yeah. On the other side of the coin, No Man's Sky is there as a dire warning.
Yeah. And that's No Man's Sky Also, the only reason it's successful now is because of word of mouth and people's friends.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we start to pack up, or we have some more news?
I don't really have anything specific at all this week. I was really bad about gathering news this week.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff I saw about Hearthstone again, because Blizzard can't go 5 minutes without screwing something up. I also heard that there's a leak for one of their new IPs, but I don't know much about it either.
I heard a little bit that there's something going on there, but I think I want to hear more concrete than anything before talking about it.
Yeah, the Hearthstone thing, on the other hand, was just that they disabled gold from buying a bunch of stuff in one of their modes.
Oh.
So there's a whole bunch of people have accrued large amounts of gold that now doesn't do anything, because you now need a premium currency that you have to buy in order to do those things. And
I'm not.
That premium currency is exactly convertible to US dollars.
Oh, what are the odds?
Yeah, I'm not sure how they monkeyed with the currency since I quit playing. I would imagine this isn't the only currency monkeying, so I don't know what you can buy with gold and premium currency right now versus what this change will do specifically.
Well, they've also managed to jam a way to sell power in there, which is what people are primarily concerned about. Now, I don't know how this game mode works or anything, but basically the gist that I got from the video I watched on is that there are slots, there are sort of hero slots that you have to choose from, and you can buy extra ones for premium currency, and your success depends on the number of slots you have for options, roughly.
Yeah, because
so
it would have to be
the win rate for the success rate on when you crunch the data increases by about a third if you buy the extra slots. So
I see. Yeah, in card games, people, and myself included, are generally more forgiving towards the microtransaction stuff, because culturally we've been conditioned to accept ridiculous price gouging when it comes to card games, and you're buying power anyway. That's the whole point of buying cards. Yeah, when it comes
you're buying a game system. This is not about buying cards.
Yeah, this is a bit different. So I don't know. I would have to know more about how the game mode works.
I just had a video on in the background that talked about it, and I don't know anything about Hearthstone, so most of it just sort of washed over me. But it seems like there are a lot of people who are really freaking mad.
Yeah.
And is the thing is that this is not like in isolation, and that's why I think it bears mentioning. It's because this is not something happening in isolation. This is happening against the background, right? That background of Diablo Immortal and the details of the aggressive monetization in Diablo 4 coming out and things like that.
Yeah, it's not in a insulated environment. Blizzard has already got a whole bunch of bad stuff hanging over their head.
Yeah, and people are just mad at Blizzard in general, and Blizzard just keeps finding ways to make people even madder.
It's kind of an art, really, when you think about it. It's kind of impressive.
It is. Even when they're trying to apologize, they can't help but make people even madder.
Well, that's how bad do things have to go for them commercially before they cotton on?
Until their money supply starts drying up, because they're a California company and care less about money than they do about pushing garbage.
Yeah, well, thankfully, venture capital is becoming a no-go for a lot of companies now, so things are going to get interesting.
Yeah, people don't want to take as many risks as they used to.
Yeah, everybody needs to get their own pile of cash sorted and comfy with the new inflation coming up, and since everybody's pile of cash, whether they wanted it to or not, even if the numbers were still going up, got a lot smaller with inflation, and the cost of everything also went up. You know, that everybody's got to get that cushion back before they're going to start thinking about investing in anything. Investing when you don't have a cushion is a bad idea.
Yeah. Alrighty. I think that's it.
That it?
That it.
All right. I guess we'll start wrapping it up then.
Yeah.
Closing comments.
I don't want to feel icky anymore.
I have gathered an ungodly amount of materials this show. I hit rank 8, and I have literally just the entire show been mashing the macros I posted. and I will show you where we currently stand on materials gathered.
Oh no.
It has gotten to a truly absurd number. I'll be set for weeks.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. I'm taking us out. We'll see you next week, folks. Sayonara. Bye-bye.